London in the 1800s was a city of clear differences. For the rich, winter brought crackling fires, cozy blankets, and hearty meals. For those in need, it was a constant struggle with the cold, empty stomachs, and illness. Winter in Victorian London was more than just a season. It was a harsh challenge that showed the clear gap between those who could afford warmth and those who had to struggle for it. Life during London's harsh Victorian winters was quite challenging. These stories are meant for you to drift off to sleep with. Feel free to like or subscribe. Share your location and the current time with me. Leave a comment below. It's great to see listeners from Texas, Toronto, and Tokyo all together at once. Actually, not at the same time. Do you understand what I'm saying? Tonight, we're stepping into the winters of Victorian London. But hold on, are you feeling okay? Seriously, take a look. Pillows, blankets, everything you need. In the place we're heading, it's best to be comfortable. You awaken to a world of shadows. Pitch black. You might not notice right away that your eyes are open. The room is really dark. The chill greets you first. A cold that feels like it reaches deep inside, slipping through the thin, worn blanket wrapped around you. You're sharing the straw mattress with someone. Your little sister is snug against your back, and your brother's feet are mixed up with yours. A cozy mix of arms and legs for heat. It's that warm body heat, not comfort, that makes it tough to get up. It's not quite like your comfy private bed at this moment. The single room your family shares, all 6 of you, feels more than just chilly. It feels colder in here than outside somehow. As you breathe out, your breath creates a soft cloud that floats in the air like a whisper. The frost has come in, creating pretty designs on the inside of your one window, a harsh yet striking beauty for those who lack access to any other form of beauty. You sit up, feeling the chill in your bones. This is the first survival challenge of the day, just getting out of bed. Your mother whispers from her corner of the room, "Jamie's coughing again." She's already awake, just like usual. You can't help but think about her sleepless nights. Her face shows the wear of time, etched by countless winters of relentless cold. I spent 3 months looking into Victorian winters for a history project once. The records from hospitals read like chilling stories. The cold took more lives than you might imagine in countless ways, but it all began with the cold. You step onto the floor and feel a sharp twinge. The wooden boards are as cold as ice. No rugs in this area of London. You've heard that wealthy people have carpets so plush you can sink right into them, which is hard to picture when your toes feel numb after just a few seconds on the cold floor. Jamie coughs again, a deep, unsettling noise. Your 6-year-old brother has had this cough for 2 weeks now. During summer, it could have been just that. Nothing. In winter, a cough always means something. You glance at the cold grate and say, "We need a fire." The ashes from last night remain, a handful of lonely cinders scattered among the gray. Your mother asks if you have anything to burn, even though she already knows the answer. Each winter morning begins with the same task, searching for fuel. Anything that can catch fire. The rich in their grand houses across the city rise to the sight of fires already glowing, tended to by servants who arrived quietly before sunrise. Their coal cellars are packed, and their children never experience real cold. I'll discover something, you say, because there's no other option. You put on all the clothes you have, which isn't a lot. A shirt, patched trousers, and a worn-out coat that used to be blue but is now a faded gray. The kind you see on the streets of London, and no gloves. They were pawned a few weeks back. Your boots have holes, but they still do the job. Just a quick note, many poor kids in Victorian times didn't have shoes at all. They walked barefoot in the snow. Can you picture it? I feel a bit grumpy when my socks are wet. Your mother gives you a cup of tea, which is mostly water, with just a hint of tea leaves that have been used one too many times. It's warm enough, but you gulp it down. Just to have something in your stomach. Be careful out there, she says. The fog is really dense today. Absolutely. Winter fog in Victorian London was something else entirely. A heavy, suffocating presence known as a pea souper. It was a yellow-gray smog so dense that you could hardly see your hand in front of you. Coal smoke from countless chimneys blended with the natural mist from the Thames, forming a thick cloud that irritated the lungs and stung the eyes. You tie a worn scarf around your face before stepping outside. Not really for warmth, although that's a nice bonus, but to block some of the toxic air. Hold on, your sister is calling. She's 9 years old, but her eyes seem wise beyond her years. She gives you a tiny tin cup, meant for coal, for hope. Sometimes that's all you have. You step outside and the fog wraps around you. The narrow alley you live on has disappeared into a soft yellowish-white haze. London is alive with sounds, the clatter of cartwheels, distant shouts, and the clank of metal from a street sweeper nearby. But visibility is limited to just a few feet ahead. The cold feels unique here. In your room, it was calm and still. But outside, it shifts and flows, slipping through every gap in your clothes and touching every bit of bare skin. The wind rushes through the tight alleys of your neighborhood, sharp and biting. Wait a moment. Let me describe something for you. Picture the coldest you've ever felt. Then think about adding dampness to that sensation. The cold in London wasn't just the chill in the air. It was the dampness that seeped into your bones. It was the fog that wrapped around you, clinging to your skin and clothes. This cold didn't merely brush against you. It settled in, making itself comfortable within you. Your journey begins at the same place each time, the back of the bakery, just 3 streets away. If fortune smiles upon you, the baker might have some fallen pieces of coal from his delivery, and occasionally, there are even charred crusts of bread waiting to be taken home. Today, you're not alone with this idea. 3 other kids are already digging through the ash pile behind the shop. Winter brings out the competition in everyone. Nothing left. A boy younger than you whispers as you get closer, his face covered in soot, his fingers raw from digging. Still, you look because you have to. You sift through the ashes, feeling them settle into the cracks of your chapped hands, stinging a bit. Then you find it, a small lump of coal, overlooked by everyone else. You slip it into your pocket swiftly. It won't make a big fire, but it's a beginning. The baker steps out from his back door, his face warm from the ovens. For a brief moment, the comforting heat envelops you before the door shuts once more. "Off with you lot," he says, but there's no real threat in his voice. He tosses a few burnt ends of bread onto the ground. Share those. In summer it can feel embarrassing, but in winter it's a lifesaver. You take a piece, nod in appreciation, and carry on. The crust slips into your pocket. Not for you, but for Jamie. The coal is for all, while the food is for those who are unwell. Your next stop is the Thames, the big river that cuts through London. The banks are partly frozen, while the middle flows dark and dangerous. The icy edges are a place for those in need to search for survival. At times, coal slips off the barges, other times driftwood appears, and occasionally there are items that aren't intended for burning but will catch fire regardless. The river is a short walk away, but in the fog and cold, it feels like it takes much longer. When you get to the Thames, your feet feel cold and numb in your wet boots. The scene at the riverbank feels like a bad dream, or at least it would if it weren't so familiar. A group of children playing along the icy banks of the river. They are known as mudlarks, these river scavengers, looking for anything valuable that may have washed ashore. In winter, that typically means fuel. You see a familiar face, Will, a boy who lives just 2 streets away. His father passed away last winter from pneumonia, or so they claimed, but in the slums, the real cause of death often feels like just a formality. Chill and emptiness are the true threats. "Morning," Will calls out, his voice soft and unclear through the scarf wrapped around his face. "Did you come across anything nice? A small piece of coal at Baker's, you say. What about you?" Will lifts a big piece of driftwood, soaked but just right for a fire. "This will be dry by tonight, could last for about an hour." A warm hour. It feels like a promise of good things to come. This is how the winter looks for those who have little. Not coins and currency, but moments of comfort, stretches of endurance. The ice by the river makes a creaky sound as you step on it. Each year, kids slip through the cracks. Some are taken out, some stay in. You take a chance because it's necessary. As you walk carefully, looking for anything helpful, you spot something dark on the grimy ice. A bigger lump of coal, larger than the one you discovered before. It likely dropped off a coal barge and ended up on the beach. You look around and it seems like no one else has noticed it yet. You tread lightly, aiming to stay unnoticed, not for your own sake. Your family really needs it. As your fingers wrap around it, a shout echoes in the air. A boy around your age has noticed what you're up to. He walks over to you, his expression focused. I noticed it before he did. He's not telling the truth. You're familiar with the routine. During summer, you might have a different opinion. During winter, fighting drains energy you simply don't have. Then something surprising occurs. The boy pauses, gazes at you with more attention, and understanding begins to unfold. He says you're the one with the sick brother. News spreads quickly in the slums. Everyone is aware of what others are going through, and everyone faces challenges. You give a nod. He says, "Take it," then speaks more quietly. "My mom says a coal cart tipped over on Bridge Street, and drivers are waiting for help to fix it, with some coal spilled out. The way the poor get through winter isn't by relying on charity, but by the little acts of kindness from those who have little to offer, except for helpful information." "Bridge Street," you say again. "Thank you." He gives a nod and continues on, returning to his own urgent search. You tuck the coal into your pocket and make your way to Bridge Street, walking as fast as your cold feet will let you. The fog has cleared a bit, but the chill still lingers, pressing down on you. The boy was correct. A coal cart has slipped on the icy cobblestones of Bridge Street and has tipped over. A driver and another man are attempting to lift it back up as a small crowd forms around them. They seem to want to help, but really, they're just hoping to grab a bit of the spilled fuel. It's like seeing eager dogs gather around a dropped piece of food. Everyone here wants that coal. Everyone here has someone at home feeling chilly and waiting. The police officer is still not here. That opens a little chance for everyone. You move in a bit, aiming to seem supportive instead of needy. The cart driver grumbles, his breath visible in the chilly air. He calls to the men who are coming together. "Give me a hand here." A few people step in to help lift the cart back up. Your opportunity is clear. As you focus on the cart, you swiftly pick up 2 pieces of coal, each about the size of your fist, from the ground. It's just enough to be discreet, yet it could make a noticeable impact. Just as you finish tidying up, a shout breaks the silence. "Hey!" Your heart feels as cold as the surrounding air. A constable steps out of the fog, his tall hat and blue coat appearing as if from nowhere. And this is where it becomes tricky, because taking coal, even if it's fallen on the street, isn't just looked down upon. It's against the law. In Victorian London, crimes faced severe punishment, particularly if the offender was poor. "What do you have there, kid?" The constable reaches out, asking for you. You're getting ready to run. The way the poor react to authority when the cart driver steps in. The man says in a rough voice, "He's helping me. I mentioned to him that he could take a piece or two as a reward for his efforts." The driver glances at you for a moment. A little act of kindness from someone I don't know. The needy caring for the needy. At times, it's the only protection available. The constable seems wary, but gives a quick nod and focuses on directing the crowd instead. "Thanks," you say softly to the driver as you assist in getting the cart back upright. He asks softly if there's family. "5 of us, brothers unwell." He nods, grasping all that remains unspoken. "Grab one last piece before you leave. The large one over there. Do you?" Thankfulness rising in your throat. 3 chunks of coal and a slice of bread. This morning has gone well for a winter day. The walk home feels quicker, even with your cold, numb feet and the chill that has settled deep into your bones, making it hard to notice anymore. A sign that feels risky on its own. Those who cease to feel the cold often lose the ability to feel anything at all. The fog is getting denser as you walk through the winding streets of the slums. You take a wrong turn 2 times, feeling lost as the once familiar surroundings now seem odd and eerie in the yellow mist. The gas lamps are lit early because of the fog, casting faint, ghostly glows that make the fog feel even thicker and more otherworldly. A woman is selling matches, tucked away in a doorway. Her face is a chilly blue, her fingers so stiff that she struggles to grip her items. You think about whether she sold anything today. Who would pause in this kind of weather? Yet she must go on. Without sales, there's no food, no coal, no life. "Just a penny, sir," she calls as you walk by. Make sure your family stays cozy. Your hand brushes against the coins in your pocket, earned from cleaning stables last week, ready for bread tomorrow. You pause for a moment, then place a half-penny into her hand. She gifts you with cracked lips. This is winter's tough equation, figuring out if you can manage both food and warmth, deciding if you can give up a little of one to help someone else keep it all. When you get home, your family is awake. Your father has already gone to the docks, where he works in any weather, unloading cargo in the chilly spray of the Thames. If he has some luck, he might find work today. If not, he'll wait in line for a long time in the cold, hoping for jobs that never come through. "Check out what I discovered," you say, proudly displaying the pieces of coal. Your mother's smile brightens the room, a lovely moment in the cold season. She says we'll have a nice fire tonight, gently placing the valuable fuel to the side. They'll keep it for the evening when everyone is back and the chill is at its peak. Your sister has started a small fire using some old paper and pieces of a wooden crate that was thrown away. It's not really a fire, just more smoke than warmth, but it's still something. Jamie sits nearby, a blanket snug around his thin shoulders, still coughing. You hand him the piece of bread from your pocket. Take your time, you say to him, savor every bite. This is another winter lesson on how to stretch everything. Food, fuel, strength to its fullest potential. The church bells ring softly in the distance, their sound wrapped in the thick fog. It's 9 o'clock. The day has just started, and you've already encountered more challenges than many wealthy Londoners will see in a week. Your mother hands you a bucket and says you need to get water, just another task for the day. The shared pump in the courtyard is probably frozen once more. You need to find a way to warm it up. As you step back into the chilly air, you look up. A rare gap in the fog reveals the sky, a soft milky blue that feels far away. The sun is shining somewhere up there. It's tough to imagine on days like this. A faraway church bell rings softly, its sound muted by the mist. The day has just started and you've already faced a few struggles for warmth, for food, for basic survival. That's what winter looks like for the poor in Victorian London. It's not just a time to get through. It's a daily struggle with the cold, with hunger, and with the threat of death. As you step back into the fog, bucket in hand, you realize there are more challenges ahead before the day ends. The water pump is located right in the center of the courtyard, with a few people gathered around it, each holding buckets and pots. Just as I thought, it's completely frozen. An elderly man is carefully pouring hot water from a kettle onto the pump's handle, attempting to melt the ice. Steam floats in the cold air while the crowd stands quietly. This is just how it is. This is winter. "Morning, Jack," you say, stepping into line. The elderly man gives a friendly nod. "It's frozen again," he mutters for the third time today. "This one's not looking good." In London winters, bad ones can vary. They're all not good. Some are truly dangerous rather than just unpleasant. When it's your turn, you turn the handle and gather the valuable water, which is starting to form ice crystals by the time you're halfway home. Your fingers, bright and puffy from the chill, struggle to hold on to the bucket's handle. Here's an interesting tidbit I picked up from a museum guide in London. Frostbite was so prevalent that some individuals would actually lose their fingers by the end of winter, as if they just dropped off. While that wasn't ideal, it was also seen as not the worst outcome you could face. At least you were still here, right? Inside, your mother grabs the water and pours it into a pot, setting it on the little fire. She keeps the rest in a corner, where it will probably freeze again before nightfall. Mrs. Bennet mentioned that her son stopped by, casually mixing things up. Inside is a light porridge. There's more water than oats, but it's a start. Say the textile factory's bringing in extra help today. A large order has arrived. The textile factories are known for being noisy and risky, filled with floating lint that can irritate the lungs. But they offer good pay, and in winter that's what really counts. "I'll go," you say, already thinking it through. A few hours of work could get you a loaf of bread and perhaps a little cheese on the side. If you hurry, you might just reach the market before it closes and pick up something different from the usual gruel. Your mother nods, a look of relief spreading across her face. "Bring your sister along." Women are being hired as well. Emma, your sister, glances up while caring for Jamie. By the age of 12, she has already spent time in many of the factories around your area in London. Her tiny fingers are perfect for the delicate tasks that grown-up hands find difficult. "Can you manage?" she asks your mother, looking over at Jamie. Your mother says we'll be fine, but everyone knows Jamie isn't okay. His cough is harsher, and his forehead feels hot with fever even in the chilly room. But there isn't an option. To get by, you need money, and that often means letting those who are unwell take care of themselves. Emma wraps her shawl around her shoulders, a worn piece that suggests warmth more than it provides, and stands next to you, prepared to greet the day. Your mother reminds you as you leave. The coal is ready for tonight when your father arrives, as if you could overlook it. The 3 valuable lumps of coal could mean the difference between warmth and cold, maybe even life and death if Jamie's fever gets worse. The textile factory is a short 20-minute walk down streets that become clearer as the morning unfolds. The fog has mostly cleared, but the air is still heavy with coal smoke that stings your lungs with every breath. The streets are buzzing with life now. Vendors gather at the bustling corners, braving the chill, offering a variety of items like matches, steaming potatoes, and meat pies that raise a few eyebrows. Their faces are a rosy red from spending hours in the cold air, yet they shout out their goods with a bright, if strained, cheer. Warm spuds heat up your hands. Enjoy a satisfying meal. Matchsticks, 1 penny for each box. Maintain your flame. Delicious pies, warm meat pies. You walk by a woman cooking chestnuts over a little fire, the delicious smell making your hungry stomach ache. The brazier does 2 things. It cooks her food and keeps her warm while she sells on the street all day. We should have kept the bread crust for ourselves, Emma says quietly, watching the chestnut seller with a wistful gaze. Jamie needs it more, you remind her, even though your own hunger is always there, feeling stronger in winter when your body works harder to keep warm. During summer, hunger feels unique. It's a bit awkward but manageable. Winter hunger feels like a creature inside you, urging you to eat. The street becomes busier as you approach the factory area. People rush by, heads lowered against the chill, their breath creating little clouds that blend into the fog hanging over the city. Many appear as hungry as you feel, their faces thin with the emptiness that winter brings to those in need. Hey, Emma suddenly points and says, a cart has arrived outside a shop to drop off supplies. While the men are unloading crates, one of them loses his footing on the icy cobblestones and lets his load fall. The crate bursts open, sending apples rolling everywhere. You both stop, observing. The driver swears, the shopkeeper comes out to yell, and amidst the chaos, a few street kids rush in, snatching apples and disappearing into the throng. Should we do it? Emma speaks softly. You pause. Taking something that isn't yours can lead to trouble. Then you notice the shopkeeper casually kick a bruised apple away, leaving it in the gutter. That one, you mention. It's not taking something if it's been left behind. Emma gives a nod and strolls across the street. She casually bends down to fix her shoe, and effortlessly picks up the discarded apple in one fluid movement. As the shopkeeper looks her way, she's already walking away, the treasure tucked away in her shawl. In the middle of the next alley, she takes it out. The apple has a bruise on one side, but the rest is just fine. She shares it with you, and you both eat fast, the sweet tart flesh bursting with flavor after days of just gruel and stale bread. Don't tell Mom, you say with your mouth full. She'll suggest that we ought to have taken it home to enjoy together. Emma nods, cleaning juice off her chin. At times, getting through the day requires a bit of strength. This is another winter calculation, weighing what we need right now against what our family expects from us. A twinge of guilt hits you, but it quickly fades away. The apple provides energy for work, helping you earn money for more food for all. Sometimes staying alive requires tough decisions. The textile factory stands in front, a large brick structure with slim windows fogged by steam coming from inside. From outside, the loud sound of the looms reaches you, a steady noise that resonates deep within. A few people are standing by the side entrance, the hiring door. People of all ages, sharing the same eager expression, wearing worn-out clothes, all wishing for a chance to earn a day's pay. A foreman steps forward, a sturdy man wrapped in a warm wool coat that far surpasses what the waiting workers have. He looks at the crowd with a sense of boredom. He shouts for 20. 10 men, 5 women, and 5 children. Work for 12 hours, get half your pay at noon, and the rest when you're done. It looks like there are about 40 people waiting. You push through the crowd, guiding Emma with you. Her size is a disadvantage in this situation. The foreman needs kids who can crawl under the machines, clear out lint, and tie up broken threads, all while the looms keep rumbling on. My sister and I, you say, as you point to Emma. She has used looms in the past. I am able to carry. The foreman glances at Emma from head to toe, then gives a nod. Girl, you are inside. He points at you while the men are loading wool. Emma squeezes your hand briefly before stepping inside. The split is anticipated. Men and women are in separate parts of the factory, yet a sense of concern lingers. The textile factories pose risks, with fingers getting caught in machines, hair getting tangled in belts, and lungs inhaling cotton dust. But it's a job, and a job means meals. You arrive at the loading dock where large bales of raw wool are being taken off the carts. The task is straightforward yet tiring. Move the bales from the carts to the sorting room. Each bale is about your weight, and the foreman wants 2 men to lift each one. Your partner is a rugged man in his 40s with hands that show the marks of hard work and a constant cough. He says his name is Bill. Is this your first time here? He asks as you both lift a bale together. It's the first time this winter, you say, already sensing the tension in your back. Bill gives a nod. Take your time. The day feels really long. The work feels even harsher due to the cold. The loading dock is not warm. Only the rooms with the costly machines receive that luxury. Your hands, already dry from the morning search, crack and bleed as the coarse wool rubs against them. The physical effort warms your body, getting blood flowing to limbs that have felt cold for days. By noon, you've shifted 30 bales. Your back aches with each lift. Your hands feel sore. And your empty stomach is a constant reminder of hunger. When the foreman gives you your half-day pay, just a few coins that mean the difference between a meal and hunger, the struggle feels justified. The workers have a half hour for their meals. Some have brought bits from home, tough bread, chilled potatoes, and a piece of cheese here and there. If you haven't been there, go to the factory gate where vendors are waiting, ready for payday. You give a shiny coin to a woman with a cart in exchange for a warm bowl of pea soup. The soup is thin and not very hot, but it has real peas and a piece of something that could be considered meat. It's the most delightful thing you've enjoyed in days. While you eat, sheltered in a doorway from the biting wind, you look around the street for Emma. The women and children have their meals apart, and you've set aside a coin to get her something as well. You see her at last, gathered with a few young girls, passing around what seems to be a meat pie among them. Her face looks tired and pale with a mark of blood on her sleeve. It's just a small injury, I think, but she's eating, and that's the important part. When the whistle blows to go back to work, you feel a little better. The soup feels cozy in your stomach, and the coins for the rest of the day are a reassuring presence in your pocket. The work in the afternoon is tougher. Your muscles, already worn out, ache with every new bale. The cold feels like it's settling in more, and no amount of moving around can push it away. Your breath creates little puffs in the cold air of the loading dock, and your sweat turns icy on your skin, a strange mix of feeling hot and cold at the same time. Bill, your work partner, appears to be having a tough time as well. His cough has gotten worse as the day went on, and by mid-afternoon he stops every few minutes to cough hard, bringing up phlegm that he spits onto the dirty floor. He talks about factory lung during one of the breaks, noticing your worry. Understood. My first winter in the mills stays with me, only seems to get tougher each year. It's something you're familiar with. Textile workers refer to it as bisonosis, or brown lung, resulting from years of inhaling lint and dust from cotton, flax, and hemp. In winter, when the factories are closed up against the chill, the air inside turns into a dense mix of fibers that cling to the lungs like damp cement. How long have you been in textiles? You ask as you assist him with another bale. About 20 years, more or less, Bill says. It began when I was younger than you, in a time when a man could save a little, perhaps even find a better job down the line. He chuckles, but the laughter fades into another cough. Everything is finished now. Once the lung affects you, finding better job opportunities becomes difficult. You remain in your spot until you're unable to work anymore, and then you pass away. He states it plainly without any hint of self-pity. This is the reality for the working poor in Victorian London. A gradual decline in jobs that wear down the body, with no safety net when health eventually fails. Bill adds, looking at your face, you're young. Leave textiles if possible. Look for something different. As if jobs are just there for the taking. As if winter brings options. You simply nod and continue with your tasks, focusing on what matters most. Once the fear of freezing or starving is behind us, we can start to envision better job opportunities. By 4 o'clock, the winter sun begins to dip below the horizon, but the constant gray haze over London makes it difficult to notice. The gas lamps in the streets are being lit, their soft glow forming little pockets of light as the darkness settles in. The lamps in the factory have been glowing for hours. The loading dock where you work is dimly lit, as there's no need to waste costly lamp oil in a place meant for heavy labor. You and the other men work in a dim light that makes the already risky task of moving heavy bales even more challenging. It occurs in a flash. Bill trips over a slick spot of ice by the edge of the dock. The bale moves, causing you to lose your balance as well. For a brief moment, the heavy weight tugs you closer to the edge where a 15-foot drop lies below. Then other hands catch the bale, holding it firm, preventing your tumble. The foreman calls out from his spot by the door, where he's been staying warm all day. Watch yourselves. Bill's face is pale as he finds his balance again. It's too close, he whispers. Apologies for that, my friend, you nod, heart racing. A fall like that could lead to broken bones, resulting in missed work, and that means no money for coal or food. In winter, an injury can be more than just painful. It can put your whole family's well-being at risk, especially if they rely on your income. Hold on, this seems a little over the top, doesn't it? Am I really making it sound bigger than it is? I spoke with a historian who explained that even a broken leg in winter could lead to a family's financial disaster, and in some cases, even death. There were no sick days, no help for injured workers, and no support system in place. If you didn't work, you didn't eat. That's it. When the final whistle blows at 6 o'clock, you're completely worn out. Every muscle aches, your hands are sore and cut in a few spots, and the cold has seeped so deeply into your bones that you can't picture ever feeling warm again. But you have your pay, a few coins that stand for warmth and meals for your family. As the workers walk out of the factory gates, you stand by the women's exit, waiting for Emma. She comes out with a bunch of girls, all of them appearing just as tired as you are. Her face is pale except for 2 bright spots on her cheeks, not from health, but from the strain of hard work in a room that's sometimes too hot from the steam of the machines and sometimes too cold from drafts through the windows that aren't sealed well. What was it like, you wonder, walking alongside her? She says they assigned her to the cleaning crew, raising her hands to show her raw fingers and torn nails, as she crawls under the looms while they're still running to clear out the lint. Jenny, a girl I was working with, had her hair get stuck in one of the belts. They had to remove it to set her free. She was fortunate it wasn't her scalp. You've heard more troubling tales from the textile factories, children losing fingers, hands, and sometimes even their lives to the unforgiving machines. Emma's broken nails and tiredness feel like a minor cost in the grand scheme. You ask, did they pay you fairly? She gives a nod and reveals her coins to you. Not as much as you earned, of course. Women and children always earn less, no matter how dangerous or difficult their work. Still, it's a fair amount for a day's labor. You have just the right amount for a nice meal tonight, plus some extra for tomorrow's bread. With the cold you discovered this morning, it feels like a little win against winter. The streets are completely dark now, illuminated only by the faint glow of gas lamps that cast small circles of yellow light every 20 yards or so. Between these bright islands are areas of deep darkness, made even harder to see through by the fog that has returned, heavy and suffocating. The walk home feels tense. Winter nights in London can be risky in more ways than just the chill in the air. Footpads and pickpockets target workers on payday, aware that even the most modest laborer will have some coins after their shift. You and Emma hurry along, sticking to the light from the lamps and choosing the busier paths, even if they take a bit longer. In winter London, being with others is not just a phrase. It's a way to stay safe. Should we grab a bite to eat now? Emma asks, as you walk by a vendor selling hot eels, the steam from his cart forming a warm, inviting cloud in the chilly air. The scent makes your stomach rumble with hunger. After a long day of hard work, your body craves more than just the midday soup, but you simply shake your head. It's a good idea to get something we can all enjoy together, you say. There's a shop on the corner that sells inexpensive cuts of meat. Perhaps we can grab some bacon for the gruel. Emma nods, but you can see the desire in her eyes as you walk by the eel seller. Warm meals now, or improved meals for everyone later. One of winter's harsh choices, the chandler's shop remains open. A usual sight in working-class neighborhoods where people can only shop after finishing their workday. Inside, the scent of tallow candles blends with the aromas of different foods hanging from hooks or kept in barrels. Saltfish, cheese rinds, bacon, and various items that nearly everyone can buy. You use your coins wisely, buying a little piece of bacon, a half-pound of oats, and a treasured ounce of real tea leaves, not the ones you've reused before. These little comforts seem huge after weeks of almost no food. We're eating like kings tonight, Emma says with a smile as you walk out of the shop, your items wrapped in paper and held close. The last part of the journey home seems much easier with food in hand and most of your money safely tucked away in your pocket. The neighborhood becomes more worn as you get closer to your tenement, the buildings tilting slightly, the streets getting tighter and dimmer, with fewer gas lamps to guide you. You can smell it before you reach your street, a blend of human waste from overflowing cesspits, smoke from countless small fires burning whatever fuel is available, and the overall stench of too many people packed into a small area with little chance to clean themselves. In summer, this smell is strong and unpleasant. In winter, it's strangely comforting. the scent of life persisting despite all odds, a reminder of human strength against nature's harshness and society's neglect. Your building stands before you, a worn 5-story tenement that holds 30 families in areas meant for just 10. The stairs make a soft sound as you walk up to your third-floor room, the wood worn in spots from the moisture over time. You stop just outside your door. Inside, Jamie's cough echoes, a wet rattling sound that's been getting worse for days. Alongside it, you can hear your father's voice, deep and steady. He's back early, which could mean something lucky or something not so great at the docks. You open the door, holding the valuable food tightly, not knowing if you will find joy or trouble waiting for you. Inside, the room feels warmer than when you left. It's not cozy by any usual measure, but it's definitely less cold. A small fire from this morning has been made with what seems to be bits of a broken wooden crate. The valuable coal sits undisturbed in the corner. Your father is by the fire, his big figure filling the small room. His clothes are wet, his face tired and worn, but he smiles when you and Emma walk in. "There they are," he says, his voice worn from years of shouting over dockyard noise. "My hard-working children." Your mother is stirring something in the pot over the fire, just water and a few vegetables, but it smells delightful after a day of labor. "Pa, you're home early," Emma says, her eyes curious. Your father's face changes, a glimmer appearing in his eyes. The dock foreman ended the day early because there weren't enough ships arriving, as the river was partly frozen. He shrugs, trying to seem relaxed, but it doesn't quite come off that way. A half-day's work is still better than nothing. You see the lie right away. If he had gotten even half his pay, he would have stopped at the pub on his way home. Not because of bad habits, but because he needed to. The dock workers rely on beer during winter. It gives them energy and a bit of warmth when food is hard to come by. His early return, clear-headed, suggests that something more troubling occurred. Your mother looks at you and gives a small shake of her head. "Just hold up the package from the Chandlers instead of asking, 'Not right now.' We have bacon and genuine tea." The atmosphere in the room changes right away. Your mother's face brightens. Jamie pauses his coughing to show interest, and your father's worried look softens. Your mother says, "Let me see that," as she takes the package and unwraps it gently, like it's something very special. She lifts the small piece of bacon as if it's something sacred, and in a sense it is, a sign of brief relief from hunger. "We'll have a feast tonight," she says, slicing a thin piece to toss into the pot. In winter, happiness comes in small ways for those who have little. Each tiny victory is celebrated with great joy because it means survival. Meanwhile, your mother is in the kitchen, adding oats to thicken the soup and bacon for flavor. You sit next to Jamie, his forehead warm against your hand, but his eyes look clearer than they did this morning. "Did you actually work in the factory?" He softly speaks, his voice rough from coughing. "The large textile shop on Commercial Road," you confirm, transported wool bales throughout the day, and his eyes grow wide. To a 6-year-old, this feels like an exciting journey instead of the hard work it truly was. "When I grow up, I'll have a job too," he says. When you're feeling good, you offer corrections softly. "First, you should focus on getting better." The truth you keep to yourself. If he makes it through this winter, he'll be working with you next year. Growing up in the slums is a harsh experience that ends quickly. Your father has been observing this interaction, his expression neutral. He stands up, feeling a small twinge as he straightens his back. He says he needs to get more water as he grabs the bucket. "I can leave," you suggest, already getting up. You've put in your effort today, but your father seems really worn out. He moves his head from side to side. He says he needs the air, and you get it. He just wants a little time to himself, away from the concerned looks of his family. Once he walks away, your mother takes a seat next to you and Emma. "This morning," she says softly, "your father's hand got crushed between the crates. Not broken, the doctor says, but definitely bruised up. I can't work for at least a week." She takes a deep breath. They offered him nothing for the time he lost, saying he was fortunate they didn't bill him for the doctor. The implications settle in heavily. A week without your father's pay, in the middle of winter, with Jamie unwell, even with you and Emma working. It won't be enough to feed 5 people and keep the fire burning. "I'll look for more work," you say without thinking. "Shifts in the morning at the factory. Are there afternoon shifts available elsewhere?" Your mother's expression becomes gentle. Her hand, calloused from years of labor, gently brushes against your cheek. She says you're a good child, but you shouldn't work yourself to death either. We'll handle it. We always find a way. A humble prayer from a struggling family. We'll handle it. We always find a way. At times it is true, and at other times it isn't. When your father comes back with the water, the soup is done. A light mixture made a bit heartier by the oats and seasoned with the valuable bacon. Your mother has made a pot of real tea, and its warm scent fills the cozy room. You sit on the floor by the fire, enjoying every spoonful of the soup. Taking your time with each bite, the bacon brings a delightful saltiness after so many weeks of plain gruel. And the tea, shared in the family's one chipped cup, feels like pure bliss. For a short time, the biting cold and the ongoing concern fade away. This is another winter wonder, discovering happiness in the little things of just being together, alive, with full bellies and warm hands. After the meal, your father looks over your day's earnings and tips, adding them to the few coins he already had. He says this should last us a few days, as he carefully puts the money into the old tin box tucked away under a loose floorboard, and we still have the coal for when it gets really cold. The temperature outside is already well below freezing, the kind of cold that can be dangerous for the elderly and very young in unheated rooms. However, cold feels different when you've experienced London winters. Things can always take a turn for the worse. Jamie's cough has gotten a little better after the warm meal, but his fever is still high. Your mother gently places him in the shared bed, wrapping the few blankets the family has around him snugly. "I'll take first watch," she says, sitting down next to him. One person has to stay awake, watching over his breathing as the night goes on, ensuring the little fire stays lit for as long as there's fuel. You, Emma, and your father will take turns sleeping on the floor by the fireplace, making the most of the fading warmth from the embers. This is how we usually sleep in winter. The ones who are really unwell get the bed, while the rest find a way to manage. Even after a long day of work, falling asleep is a challenge. The ground is tough, the light blanket does little to fend off the cold, and your body feels sore from lifting wool bales. At midnight, your mom gently wakes you up for your turn to watch Jamie. She whispers that his fever is a little lower as she sits down on the floor next to where you were lying. Let me know if his breathing shifts. You sit next to Jamie on the bed, hearing the rattle in his chest. The wind blows through the narrow street, slipping into every gap in the window, making little breezes dance across the floor. The fire has dwindled to nearly nothing, leaving behind a few glowing embers that offer more of a comforting glow than real heat. London at night during winter always has a hint of activity. At this late hour, you can hear coughing from nearby rooms, the cry of a hungry baby, the occasional shout or breaking glass from the pub at the corner, the sounds of hardship, of struggle, of life going on despite it all. Jamie wakes up, his eyes slowly opening. "Tell me a story," he whispers, his voice hoarse from coughing. A smile lights up the dark. "What type of tale?" He mentions one about summer, just like that. You share a memory from last summer, a day off when you went to the Commons. You remember the warmth of the sun on your faces, running barefoot through the grass, and catching minnows in the stream with your hands. Those small joys were free, yet felt like treasures during the cold winter days. Jamie drifts off in the middle of the story, his breathing becoming softer, his forehead feeling cooler under your hand, a reassuring sign. In winter, children can easily succumb to the cold, hunger, and various illnesses that target the vulnerable. Each small improvement feels like a triumph over the harshness of death. The night drifts by in a light doze, feeling the constant cold, never completely asleep, always sensing the chill settling deeper into your bones. By dawn, the room is cold once more. The fire gone, frost designs appearing on the inside of the window. Your father gets up first, moving slowly, his hurt hand resting gently at his side. He quietly starts the morning routine of bringing the fireplace to life, using bits of paper and tiny pieces of wood saved from yesterday's crate. "Today, I'll gather more fuel," you assure yourself, aware that without your father's earnings, the responsibility of keeping the family warm rests more on you. He nods, looking serious. He suggests that the market could have work. "They always need porters. Even with a bad hand, I could handle light loads." His voice carries a deep sadness, a dock worker for 2 decades now forced to plead for the simplest jobs due to an injury he didn't cause. Winter life can be fragile. Just one accident, one illness, or a bit of bad luck can turn survival into disaster in an instant. Breakfast consists of a cup of water and the final piece of yesterday's bread, shared into 5 portions. The rich tea and comforting soup from last night feel like a fading memory, a short-lived moment of plenty in the ongoing battle against hunger. Emma, your mother agrees, but suggests that if the textile mill isn't hiring, you should check the bakeries. They often need delivery boys, so anything to keep you active in this cold weather. It's a common saying in winter, keep moving or you'll get cold. That's why even the simplest job is better than having no job at all in January. Doing things creates warmth, and warmth is essential for staying alive. Outside, the morning is very cold, but clearer than the day before. The fog has lifted for now, showing a London changed by frost. Every surface sparkles with ice crystals. Each breath floats in the air like a tiny cloud. It would be lovely if it weren't so dangerous. Your journey begins at the textile factory, but a sign on the gate brings disappointing news. No hiring today. A few hopeful workers gather outside, wishing the sign is mistaken or that a hired person might not arrive. You think about joining them, but it doesn't look promising. It's better to look for other options than to spend valuable time waiting in vain. Emma suggests, let's head to the market. If Pa's right, they might need both of us. Covent Garden Market is quite a distance from your neighborhood, but it's one of the few spots that offers daily work throughout the year. Food needs to be transported no matter the weather, and using people is less expensive than relying on horses when the streets are slippery. The walk lasts about an hour, your empty stomach rumbling with hunger, fingers and toes feeling cold even with all the movement. Emma walks next to you, her face mostly covered by her worn scarf, with only her eyes showing, red from the cold and smoke but full of determination. The market buzzes with life when you get there. Carts and wagons move around on the icy cobblestones. Porters carry heavy loads of vegetables and fruits, and sellers call out their goods to the shoppers bundled up against the cold. During summer, the market is filled with the scents of soil and plants, juicy fruits, and blooming flowers. In winter, the scents are softer, root vegetables, cabbages, and a hint of citrus from imported oranges that only the rich can buy. The hiring corner is filled with men and boys like you, stamping their feet to keep warm, their breath visible as they shout out their availability to the merchants passing by. I'm a strong porter, ready to carry all day. It's a tough time, like a winter song of hardship. You step in, moving closer as you spot a merchant searching for help. I can carry, sir. My sister can help too. She's stronger than she seems. Some people look past you. Some shake their heads, thinking you're too young, too small, not worth the few coins even when winter makes things tough. But then a man with a red face selling potatoes waves you over. He points to a wagon stacked with sacks and says, I need these moved to my stall. It's a penny for each sack, and there are 20 in total. You can share them if you act fast. In pennies for maybe an hour's work, not as great as the factory, but still something. You nod with excitement, and Emma starts heading toward the wagon. The sacks weigh a lot, at least 50 pounds, and the potato seller's stall is located on the other side of the market. You work fast and effectively, understanding that being quick opens up chances for more tasks later on. Emma grabs the smaller sacks while you take the bigger ones, and together you wrap up the task in less than an hour. The potato seller counts the pennies slowly, as if letting go of each coin hurts him, but he also hands you a small potato. The damaged ones won't sell, so you take it gratefully. Food and money, a nice little win. The potato seller needs to let others know that you can be counted on. Right after, a woman selling winter greens hires you to help her rearrange her stall and bring in fresh stock from her storage cellar. By midday, you and Emma have made almost as much as you would have at the factory, along with a few imperfect food items, some potatoes, a slightly wilted cabbage, and an apple with a bruise. It feels like a feast for winter. The market changes in winter. Summer offers plenty, diversity, and vibrant hues. Winter focuses on foods that help us get through the season, like potatoes, turnips, cabbages, and onions. These ingredients keep well, offer energy to keep warm, and can easily be turned into soups and stews to feed a crowd with minimal effort. While taking a short break between jobs, you and Emma stroll through the market, just enjoying the sights. Most of what's for sale is out of reach, but you can soak in the sights and sounds, the warmth of people close by, the shouts of vendors, and the rare treasures that feel like dreams in your life, like a pineapple from faraway lands, delicate flowers, or a rabbit prepped for a feast. Get your oysters fresh and ready. The ring draws you in. Oysters are a curious winter mystery in London. High prices at fancy restaurants, but affordable street food for those in need. A man selling oysters stands at the edge of the market with a simple wooden tray filled with ice and shellfish in front of him. He calls out, "Hey, penny for 3, the freshest in all of London." You pause, considering the coins in your pocket and what the family requires. Oysters are a good food choice, filling and nutritious. They offer a unique protein source that those with limited means can occasionally enjoy. However, every half-penny spent on them is a penny not spent on essentials like coal, bread, or medicine for Jamie. Emma decides to go ahead, taking out a half-penny before you can say anything. She says with confidence that we've earned a treat, and we'll make sure to bring plenty back with us. The oyster seller smiles, showing a few gaps in his teeth, and picks out 3 oysters. He takes the shells, places them on a piece of seaweed, and adds a splash of vinegar from a small bottle. "Grab them while they're cold," he jokes, already facing the customer. You and Emma step aside, away from the busy market crowd, and enjoy the oyster swiftly. The flavor is salty, the texture smooth and unusual, but the sensation of protein filling your empty stomach is quick and delightful. Emma briefly closes her eyes as she swallows, a look of pure satisfaction on her face. "It's worth it," she says, and you can't help but agree. Sometimes staying alive means allowing yourself little pleasures to lift your spirits. The market activity goes on into the afternoon, with people carrying items, sweeping stalls, and assisting a butter seller in breaking the ice from her display. The work keeps you cozy, even as the temperature falls, and by 3 o'clock, your pockets feel pleasantly full of coins. "We should head home," you say, seeing the lights start to dim. Winter days are brief, and you wouldn't want to find yourself in the dark during the long walk home. Emma nods and says, "Let's head to the river. Sometimes the coal barges spill their load when they're unloading, and we might find something to use for fire." It's a change of plans, but one that could be worthwhile, you think. And together you step away from the cozy warmth and brightness of the market into the shadowy streets heading toward the Thames. The air gets cooler with every street you walk by, and the wind picks up as you near the river. The buildings here are mostly warehouses, tall and strong, making the wind whip through clothing like a sharp blade. As you arrive at the Thames embankment, the light is fading and the river appears dark. Moving slowly between banks that are partly frozen, ice flows move gently in the current, bumping into one another with odd creaking sounds that carry over the water. As you arrive at the Thames embankment, the light is fading fast, and the river appears dark and slow, moving gently between banks that are partly frozen. Ice flows move gently in the current, bumping into one another with odd creaking sounds that carry over the water. This section of the river is busy with coal barges and cargo ships, always loading and unloading to keep London supplied and warm. In summer, it's lively and full of activity. In winter, as evening comes, it's very quiet, with small teams working fast to wrap up before it gets completely dark. You and Emma stroll along the embankment, looking for anything that could be helpful: spilled coal, lost cargo, or bits of wood that could catch fire. The ground is slippery, with ice everywhere, and you need to step cautiously to prevent falling into the cold water. "Look," Emma suddenly says, pointing to a dark spot on the ice by the water's edge. That resembles coal. A small pile of coal pieces has spilled during unloading. It's too little for the barge workers to worry about picking up, especially since it landed on the ice instead of the dock. "Watch out," you say as Emma moves closer to it. The ice by the river can be tricky. At times it's solid enough to walk on, while other times it's so thin it could break easily. She gives a nod, trying out each step. You stay right behind her, prepared to catch her if the ice breaks. It's a bit of a gamble, but the payoff, real coal that can last for days, makes it all worth it. As Emma approaches the little pile, she hears a shout from farther down the slope. A dock policeman has seen you. "Hey, is that Thames Company property over there?" The situation is almost comical, as if a handful of spilled coal holds any value for the large shipping companies. Yet, theft is still theft according to the law, and those in need have limited rights when it comes to reclaiming what the wealthy have thrown away. "Run," you whisper to Emma, who has already taken a few pieces of coal and tucked them into her pockets. You both quickly move away from the river's edge, hearing the policeman's heavy footsteps crunching on the ice behind you. Emma stumbles a bit, almost losing her balance, but you grab her arm and help her stay on her feet. As she runs, the coal in her pockets makes a soft clinking sound. The winter night is on your side now. In no time, you've vanished into the winding paths that stretch away from the river. You slip into a small doorway, guiding Emma along as you both press against the wall, watching the policeman walk by, still shouting, but clearly not knowing where you are. As his footsteps disappear, you both lean on each other, laughing a little and catching your breath in the cold air. Emma beams with pride as she pulls the pieces of coal from her pockets. 6 decent chunks, enough for a few days of small fires. Definitely worth pursuing, you agree, still trying to catch your breath. Mom will be happy. This is how the less fortunate in London get through winter. Weighing the potential gains against the possible downsides. Risk versus need. Figuring out which risks to take to avoid the cold and hunger for just one more day. The walk home starts off a bit uneasy, with both of you keeping an eye out for the policeman. But as you move further away from the river, the unease begins to fade. The coins in your pocket and the coal in Emma's give you a cozy sense of achievement that nearly distracts you from the chill creeping in through your thin clothes. The fog rolls in as night approaches, soft wisps wrapping around street lamps, quieting sounds, turning the usual streets into a scene that feels both eerie and strange. A church bell rings in the distance, marking 5 o'clock as darkness settles in. Emma steps nearer to you as you walk, seeking warmth and comfort. Even though she is 3 years younger, she has always been the bolder one, yet the winter fog still makes her uneasy. "Do you think Jamie will feel better tonight?" she asks, her voice barely audible in the thick fog. You say, "I think so," with a wish that it's true. "He felt nice this morning, and will have tasty food to bring home and coal for the fire." That is more beneficial than any medicine. This isn't completely correct. Good medicine could make a difference, but it's something you can't afford right now. For those in need, nourishing food and warmth are the only remedies they can count on. As you drive onto your street, the comforting sights and scents of home welcome you. The bent lamppost that throws shadows like reaching hands, the smell from the open sewer beside the road, the noise of many lives crowded together. Home, a place that lacks comfort, safety, and health, yet it remains home. You and Emma walk up the old stairs to your room, both picturing how the family will react to what you earned today and the valuable coal. Little wins, but during winter, these little wins mean everything. As you stand outside your door, you stop, noticing the loud voices coming from within. Your mother's voice, more strained than normal, and a stranger's, deep and commanding. Your father is clearly not here. You share a concerned look with Emma, then open the door and step into a scene that makes your heart drop. In your room, a gentleman stands by the fire, though it's really just a sad collection of embers. He has on a nice black wool coat, a top hat held in his gloved hands, and a look of displeasure that peeks out from behind a mask of professional concern. A local doctor in the community. You can tell right away what it is. They go to the slums now and then, often after a disease outbreak has become too big to overlook, or when a unique case of illness catches their attention. Your mother is positioned between the doctor and Jamie, who is resting in bed, his coughing more severe than it was when you departed this morning. Your father is missing. The doctor said, looking at you and Emma, as I explained to your mother, the boy has signs of bronchial inflammation, maybe pneumonia. He needs the right attention. His tone suggests that he thinks proper care can't really happen in your home. He's got a point. Taking care means having fresh air, healthy food, and enough warmth. Things that feel out of reach, your mother says, her voice tight with restrained anger. We're taking care of him. We've done it on our own before. The doctor lets out a sigh, showing a hint of tiredness in their patience. Mrs. Clark, the parish has its duties. Given the current child mortality rates in this district, we must pay attention. The infirmary at the workhouse? No, your mother's voice is strong now. He isn't going to the workhouse. None of us are here. You get her fear right away. The workhouse infirmary provides medical care, but it comes with a heavy cost. Families were split apart, made to work for their survival even when sick, and faced harsh treatment masked as kindness. Many who went into the workhouse, even the infirmary, never returned. The doctor looks at you and Emma, noticing your cold, red faces, your worn-out clothes, and the cold dust lingering on Emma's hands. He looks at the small bundle of food you're still holding. He notices the children are working, showing a bit of disapproval, but it's unclear if he's concerned about child labor or your family's need for it. Your youngest needs better conditions than this. He points to the wet walls, the faint glow of the dying fire, and the one bed meant for 5 people. We have coal, Emma says, taking the pieces from her pocket, and food. We made a nice amount of money today. The doctor's face relaxes a little. That's great. but pneumonia needs steady warmth, fresh air, and the right medicine. What medicine could assist him, you wonder, considering the change in your pocket? Maybe there's something within reach, something you could give up for. The doctor pauses, caught between what they know and what is actually happening. Camphor on the chest, beef tea for energy, maybe a mustard plaster but lacking steady warmth. He can stop right there. Heat is the most important medicine, and it's the toughest to keep up. Your mother assures that he will stay warm. The kids brought coal and my husband did too. Where is Mr. Clark? The doctor asks. I heard he got hurt. Your mother says calmly that he has gone to the apothecary. For camphor, as you mentioned, a different story to keep the family's reputation intact. Your father has probably gone to sell something. Any small items of value that might be left after a long winter of hardship. The copper kettle maybe, the one decent shirt he puts on for nicer work. The doctor seems unsure, but ultimately chooses not to pursue this argument. He pulls a small bottle from his bag and says it's laudanum, offering it to your mother. 3 drops in water when the coughing is at its worst, no more than twice a day. He takes a moment. It's from my own stash and it's free. This little act of kindness, surprising given his previous behavior, appears to soften your mother's stiff demeanor. Thank you, doctor, she says, her voice gentle. He puts on his hat and says, I'll be back in 3 days. If he hasn't gotten better, we will have to talk about the infirmary once more. He looks around the room again, and please, make sure that fire stays lit. Once he departs, your mother sits down on the bed's edge, holding the laudanum bottle tightly in her hand as if it were a protective charm. She calls her nosy old, but there's no real bite to her words. Even help you didn't ask for can be useful in winter. Emma asks where Pa has really gone, as she starts to build the fire with the precious pieces of coal. Your mother sighs, saying she told him it's hopeless. They never give advances, especially not to injured men who can't work. You take everything out of your pockets and spread the day's earnings on the little table. We did well today, you say, trying to bring some light into the heavy atmosphere, and there'll be work tomorrow too, the market supervisor said to come back. Your mother manages a smile, though it doesn't quite reach her eyes. You're good children, she says, repeating what she said last night, too good for this life. As Emma cooks a meal with what you gathered from the market, the potatoes are roasting by the fire, and the cabbage is being boiled for a light soup. You sit next to Jamie, who is struggling to breathe. Each inhale a challenge, each exhale a rattling sound that seems too big for his small body. Hey, Jamie boy, you say, using a nickname from happier times. Look what I brought. You take out a bruised apple from your pocket and slice off a small piece with your pocket knife. Jamie's eyes brighten at the sight of the rare treat. Winter fruit feels like a special luxury. Just a bit at a time, you remind him as he reaches for it. Make it last. The coal fire has brought the room to a temperature that could generously be called less cold, and the smell of cooking food has transformed the space from desperate to merely poor. These small improvements feel enormous after the day's labors. Your father returns as darkness falls completely, his expression telling the story before he speaks. No advance, he confirms. Unwrapping his muffler, his breath smells of gin, just a glass by the odor. Not enough to count as drinking, but enough to ward off the cold and disappointment. But I got something for the boy. From his pocket, he produces a small packet of hawthorn candy. The old remedy for coughs isn't real medicine, but it helps ease the throat, and the sugar provides quick energy that Jamie's sick body needs. Cost my last pennies, he admits quietly to you when Jamie is distracted by the treat. Couldn't come home with nothing, though. A man needs to provide. The pride and shame warring in his face are painful to see. You clasp his shoulder briefly. A man's gesture to another man, though you're barely 14. We're managing, you tell him. We always do. The family prayer passed from child to parent this time. Evening brings its own rituals of survival. The single candle is lit, not for light, which is an unaffordable luxury, but to check Jamie's condition and serve the simple meal. The rest of the night will pass in firelight and darkness. The food, meager as it is, raises everyone's spirits. Jamie manages a few bites of potato and sips of cabbage water before falling back into restless sleep. Your father eats quickly, efficiently. A working man's approach to food is fuel rather than pleasure. Your mother takes less than her share. A habitual sacrifice you've seen so often you've almost stopped noticing it. After the meal, a knock at the door startles everyone. Visitors after dark are rare. Usually neighbors with emergencies or sometimes the landlord demanding overdue rent. Your father opens it cautiously to reveal Mrs. Higgins from next door, a widow with 3 small children of her own. "Sorry to bother," she says, her voice hushed, "but I heard the doctor was here for your boy." The concern in her tone is genuine. In the slums, neighbors watch out for each other from necessity. Today's crisis at one door could be tomorrow's at another. "Just a chest cold," your mother says dismissively. Though everyone knows it's worse, he's resting now. Mrs. Higgins nods. Understanding the pride that prevents full disclosure, my Tom had something similar last winter. She says, "I found this helped." She holds out a small cloth pouch. Onions and camphor, hang it near his pillow at night. These small exchanges of folk medicine and practical wisdom are how the poor survive when doctors are unreachable or unhelpful. Every family has their remedies passed down through generations, traded like currency in times of need. Your mother accepts the pouch gratefully. "You're kind to think of us. We must look out for each other." Mrs. Higgins replies with a shrug. "No one else will." This simple truth hangs in the air after she leaves. The rich have doctors, hospitals, medicine. The poor have each other, home remedies, and stubborn endurance. The evening deepens into night. Your father mends a hole in one of his work boots by firelight, squinting in the dim glow. Your mother hangs Mrs. Higgins' remedy pouch near Jamie's pillow, then sits beside him, smoothing his hair as he restlessly sleeps. You and Emma take the opportunity to wash as best you can with the small amount of water that can be spared for non-drinking purposes. Just faces and hands, standing as close to the fire as possible to avoid the shock of cold water on already chilled skin. Real bathing is a summer luxury. In winter, cleanliness is sacrificed to practicality and survival. Okay, so this might sound gross to you in your warm, clean bed right now. But for real, Victorian Londoners barely bathed in winter. The water was freezing, fuel to heat it was expensive, and many people genuinely believed that bathing opened the pores and let disease in. I know, wild, but they weren't completely wrong. If you bathed then had to put the same dirty clothes back on in an unheated room, you'd probably get sick faster. The night brings a new set of challenges. The fire must be maintained but rationed. Burning too fast means freezing before dawn, but too small a flame won't keep the deadly cold at bay. Your family has developed a rotation, each person responsible for feeding the fire during different hours, allowing the others to sleep. Your shift comes after midnight. The room is quiet except for the occasional crack from the fire and Jamie's labored breathing. Outside, the sounds of London at night filter through the thin walls. A drunk singing somewhere in the distance. The clatter of a late cab on cobblestones. A shout followed by running footsteps. The city never truly sleeps, not even in winter's grip. There's always someone working, drinking, fighting, loving, dying. You add a small piece of coal to the fire, watching the flames leap up to embrace it. Fire is life in winter. Mesmerizing. Necessary, dangerous. Too little means freezing. Too much means burning. Just right means one more night of survival. A soft moan from Jamie draws your attention. You move to his side, feeling his forehead. The fever seems worse again. His skin hot and dry beneath your palm. Following your mother's earlier example, you dampen a rag with precious water and lay it across his forehead. "Cold," he mumbles, without waking fully. "I know," you whisper, "but it helps the fever." He doesn't respond, drifting back into deeper sleep. You replace the damp cloth several times, hoping to bring the fever down before morning. The laudanum bottle sits on the small table, an option of last resort if his coughing worsens. By the time your watch ends, frost is forming again on the inside of the window. Despite the fire, outside, the temperature must be well below freezing. You wonder how the truly homeless are surviving tonight. Those who sleep in doorways or under bridges. Those with not even your family's meager shelter and warmth. Many won't survive. That's the brutal reality of London winters. Every morning, bodies are found frozen in alleys, under bridges, in parks. The poorest of the poor, defeated finally by cold and hunger. Your mother wakes for her shift, tending the fire, moving quietly to avoid disturbing the others. "His fever's up," you whisper. Nodding toward Jamie, she nods, touches his forehead and sighs. "If it's not better by morning, we'll try the laudanum." She decides, "Now get some sleep while you can. Tomorrow will be another long day." Sleep comes in fragments, never deep enough to fully rest. But better than nothing. You dream of summer, of warm days and enough food, of a world where winter isn't a season of constant fear. Morning arrives with weak gray light filtering through the frosted window. Your father is already up, rebuilding the fire that has died down overnight. Your mother sits beside Jamie, her face tight with worry. "He's worse," she says simply when she sees you're awake. The fever broke in the night, but his breathing, even across the room you can hear it. A wet rattling sound with every breath as though he's drowning from within. This is how pneumonia kills. Fluid filling the lungs until breathing becomes impossible. "I'll fetch the doctor," you decide immediately, already pulling on your coat. "We can't pay him," your father reminds you, his voice rough with sleep and worry. "He said he'd come back in 3 days. I'll just make it sooner." The unspoken understanding passes between you. "You'll beg if necessary? Promise anything to get help for Jamie?" Pride means nothing when a child's life hangs in the balance. Outside, the morning is clear and brutally cold. The temporary break in the fog reveals a London transformed by overnight frost. Every surface glitters with ice crystals, beautiful and deadly. Your breath freezes almost instantly, forming crystals on your muffler. The parish doctor's office is a mile away, near the church that nominally cares for the souls of your district while mostly ignoring the bodies. The walk there is painful, the cold finding every gap in your clothing. Your feet already numb in their inadequate boots. The streets are beginning to fill with early morning workers, factory hands hurrying to arrive before the whistles blow, servants going to light fires in wealthy homes, costumongers setting up their stalls for the day's trade. Everyone moves quickly, heads down against the cold, focused on reaching their destination and the relative warmth it might provide. A milk cart passes, the horse's breath forming clouds in the frigid air, its hooves striking sparks from the frozen cobblestones. The driver is wrapped in so many layers he looks twice his actual size, only his reddened nose visible between scarf and hat. "Cold enough for you," he calls as he passes, the standard winter greeting between strangers. "Getting there," you reply with the standard answer. These little moments are a part of London's winter life, recognizing the common struggle against the cold and the togetherness needed to make it through until spring. The doctor's office is located on the ground floor of a simple building, set apart from nearby shops by a small brass plate next to the door. You pause before knocking, noticing your appearance, the patched clothes, the dirt on your skin from weeks without proper washing, and the overall sense of hardship that no amount of cleaning could erase. Doctors care for the poor, yet often lack respect for them. You prepare for the usual disdain and condescension, the tone professionals use with those they view as lesser. To your surprise, the door opens not by a servant or nurse, but by the doctor himself. He's partially dressed in a shirt and waistcoat, but without a jacket, as if he's interrupted his morning routine. "Yes," he says sharply, then sees you. "Ah, the clerk boy." His face changes from annoyance to a look of care. "Your brother is worse." You nod, suddenly struggling to speak with the lump in your throat. The straightforward acknowledgement of your fear makes it tougher to hold it together. His breathing, you notice, is quite poor this morning. The doctor takes a deep breath, looking into his office where a cup of tea is steaming on his desk. For a moment you wonder if he'll say no, telling you to return during regular hours. But instead he grabs his coat and medical bag. "I'll come now," he says. "Though I mentioned to your mother yesterday that without proper facilities, there's only so much I can do." The walk back to your tenement feels longer with the doctor beside you. He walks quickly, seemingly unaffected by the cold in his warm wool coat and sturdy leather boots. You find it hard to keep up, your shoes slipping on the icy cobblestones. "Have you thought about service?" The doctor breaks the silence after a while, suggesting that a boy like you could find a place in a good home with regular meals and warmth. His words are well-meaning, but they show he doesn't grasp your reality. Service means leaving your family, who rely on your income, and it means leaving them to face winter without you. "My family needs me," you reply plainly. He responds with a neutral sound, neither agreeing nor disagreeing, seeing your choice as noble but possibly unwise. One less mouth to feed might help them more than your small earnings. This cold calculation, weighing lives and needs like entries in an account book, reflects how the upper classes view poverty, seeing it as a problem to manage rather than people to help. You're spared from responding as you arrive at the tenement. The doctor glances up at the crumbling building with barely concealed distaste before following you inside. The scene in your room has shifted during your absence. Your mother sits beside Jamie, giving him drops of laudanum in water. Emma is at the fire, making it burn brighter than usual with precious coal. Your father stands at the window, his expression grim as he turns to see the doctor. "He won't cough up blood," your mother states plainly. "Just a little, but—" The doctor's professional mask slips for a moment, revealing genuine concern. Blood in the lungs is a very bad sign, particularly in a child already weakened by winter privation. He examines Jamie thoroughly, listening to his chest with a stethoscope, feeling his glands, checking his temperature with the back of his hand. The examination seems to take hours, though it can only be minutes. Finally, he straightens, his expression carefully neutral. The infection has worsened, he says. There is fluid in both lungs. Your mother makes a small sound, quickly stifled. What can we do? The doctor hesitates, clearly weighing how much truth to share. Continue the laudanum for the cough. Keep him warm, warmer than this if possible. He glances at the fire, which is already consuming your coal at an alarming rate. He needs nourishing food, beef tea ideally, beef tea. The expensive extract of meat simmered for hours is far beyond your means. Your mother nods anyway, unwilling to admit the impossibility. And the doctor seems uncomfortable now. Prepare yourselves. The next 2 days will determine the outcome. Children can recover remarkably from even serious infection, but they can also decline very rapidly. The clinical words barely disguise their meaning. Jamie might die, and soon. The doctor reaches into his bag again and removes a small packet. Mustard powder, he says, handing it to your mother. Mix with water into a paste and apply to his chest. It may help draw out the infection. This small kindness, like the laudanum yesterday, seems at odds with his professional detachment. Perhaps even parish doctors used to poverty and death are not immune to the suffering of children. I will return tomorrow, he says, reaching for his hat. Send for me sooner if there is significant change after he leaves. The room is silent, except for Jamie's labored breathing. Your father returns to the window, staring out at the frozen city as though it might offer some solution. Your mother busies herself preparing the mustard plaster, her movements mechanical, precise. A way to keep functioning when emotion threatens to overwhelm. Emma touches your arm, pulling you slightly aside. I heard the carter who delivers to the butcher shop say they were looking for help today. She whispers, good wages. We should go. Work. Always work. The only answer the poor have to any crisis? You can't heal Jamie directly. Can't change the cold or the damp or the thin walls that let winter in. But you can work, earn, bring home money for food and coal and medicine. I'll go, you decide, you stay with Jamie. 4 of us don't need to be here, but he shouldn't be alone if you can't finish the sentence. Emma nods understanding, bring food if you can. She says real food, he needs strength. Your father, overhearing, turns from the window. I'll come with you, he says. My hand's better today between us. We might earn enough for meat. Your mother doesn't object. Though losing both primary wage earners is a risk, she understands the calculus as well as anyone. Without better food and more coal, Jamie's chances diminish by the hour. Within minutes, you and your father are back on the frozen streets, heading toward the butcher shop in the next neighborhood. The cold seems less important now. The aching feet and numb fingers, mere inconveniences in the face of Jamie's more serious suffering. The doctor, your father says as you walk, breaking a long silence. Is he hopeful? The question carries so much weight, your father, unable to protect his family from winter, from poverty, from disease, reduced to asking a child for reassurance. Jamie's strong, you say, avoiding a direct answer, and will get what he needs. Food, heat. Your father nods, accepting this evasion as the best comfort available. Yes, he says firmly. We will. The butcher shop appears ahead, a rare spot of light and warmth on the otherwise gray street. Through the window you can see the shop owner in his bloody apron, serving a well-dressed woman who points imperiously at different cuts of meat. A delivery cart stands outside, the horse stamping its hooves against the cold. Breath steaming near the back entrance. Several men are unloading carcasses, beef and pork mostly, swinging from hooks, destined for the shop's cold room, before being butchered for the wealthier customers who can afford meat even in winter. You approach the cart driver, a burly man with a face reddened by cold and probably alcohol. Heard you were looking for help, you say without preamble. He looks you and your father up and down, assessing your strength, your desperation, your willingness to work for whatever he offers. Might be, he says finally. Got deliveries all day. Need strong backs to load and unload. 6 pence for the day. 6 pence more than you expected. Enough for meat and coal if you're careful. You nod eagerly. Your father beside you does the same, flexing his injured hand experimentally. Right then, the carter says, start with them carcasses. Into the cold room, quick as you can. Butcher doesn't want them freezing out here. The work is brutal, lifting heavy carcasses, carrying them through the narrow back door into the shop's storage room. The meat is partially frozen, the blood on your hands congealing almost instantly in the cold air. But it's work, and the physical effort at least keeps you warm as morning deepens toward noon. Your father struggles with his injured hand, but says nothing. grimly hefting his share of each load. You notice him favoring the hand more as the hours pass, but he waves away your concern with a short, "I'm fine." By midday, the unloading is complete, and the carter sets you to loading smaller cuts into the delivery wagon, packages wrapped in paper and twine, destined for the kitchens of wealthy homes, where servants will transform them into roasts and stews and pies. The contrast isn't lost on you, handling food you could never afford, sending it to people who will barely appreciate its value. A single package contains more meat than your family sees in a month. Careful with that one, the carter warns as you lift a particularly expensive-looking parcel. That's for Counselor Barton's dinner party, worth more than you'll earn all winter. The casual cruelty of the remark, true though it may be, makes your father stiffen beside you. For a moment you think he might say something, might let his simmering anger at the injustice of it all boil over. But he just adjusts his grip on the package and continues loading. Pride is a luxury, and your family can't afford luxuries in winter. The afternoon delivery route takes you and your father across London, from modest middle-class homes to grand houses, with separate entrances for tradespeople. At each stop you unload meat packages, while the carter presents bills and collects payments. The work isn't difficult, but the constant exposure to the biting cold makes every movement painful. Your father's hand is clearly getting worse, the knuckles swollen again, the fingers stiff when he tries to grip packages. He says nothing, but you can see the pain in his face, the way he cradles the hand against his body between deliveries. "You should rest it," you say quietly during a brief pause between stops. He shakes his head. "Can't afford to," he replies simply. The words carry no self-pity, just the plain truth of your situation. Winter doesn't allow the luxury of recovery. Work or starve, those are the only options. The carter is neither kind nor cruel, just indifferent, viewing you both as temporary tools to be used and discarded. He doesn't notice or care about your father's injury, doesn't offer breaks or food or even conversation beyond necessary instructions. This casual disregard is normal. The working poor are invisible to most Londoners, necessary but unworthy of notice, like the horses that pull the carts or the gas that lights the lamps. By 3 o'clock, with darkness already gathering, you reach the final delivery, a grand house in Belgravia. With white columns and gleaming windows, the contrast between this palace and your single-room dwelling is so stark, it almost seems they can't exist in the same city. The same reality? "Wait here," the carter instructs, taking the final package himself, clearly unwilling to let rough laborers approach the house directly. "Don't touch nothing." The warning is unnecessary. You're both too tired, too cold and too focused on getting paid to consider mischief. Your father leans against the cart, resting his injured hand inside his coat for warmth, his face gray with exhaustion. "We'll get something good for Jamie," you say, trying to bolster his spirits. "Real meat, maybe even an orange. The winter fruit, expensive and rare, might tempt even a sick child's appetite." Your father nods, mustering a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "An orange," he agrees. He'd like that. The back door of the grand house opens and a woman emerges. Not the lady of the house, certainly, but a cook or housekeeper by her clean, practical dress. She's speaking to the carter, but her eyes drift to you and your father waiting by the cart. Something in your posture, the clear exhaustion, your father's poorly concealed pain seems to catch her attention. She disappears back inside, only to return moments later with a bundle wrapped in cloth. "For your lads," she tells the carter, handing it to him. "Kitchen scraps. Just going to waste otherwise?" The carter shrugs, takes the bundle and tosses it to your father as he returns to the cart. "Your lucky day," he says without interest. Your father unwraps the cloth to reveal several thick slices of roast beef, a heel of good bread, and even a small piece of hard cheese. Not scraps at all, but a decent meal deliberately prepared by someone who recognized hunger when she saw it. These small kindnesses exist alongside winter's cruelty, brief moments of human connection that cross the rigid barriers of class. Not enough to change the system, but sometimes enough to get through one more day. Your father rewraps the food carefully, tucking it inside his coat. "For Jamie first," he says quietly, "then the others." The return journey to the butcher shop seems longer, the cold more penetrating as the brief winter daylight fades completely. Gas lamps flicker to life along main streets, but they provide more shadow than illumination, their light creating moving patterns that make the familiar city seem strange and threatening. At the shop, the carter counts out your wages, 6 pence each as promised. The coins are cold in your palm but represent more security than you've had in weeks. Combined with the unexpected food gift, today feels like a rare victory against winter's siege. "Need help tomorrow?" Your father approaches the carter, trying to keep it light, not showing urgency. The man shrugs, suggesting he might be around at 7 if you're interested. It's not a guarantee, but it offers a glimmer of hope, potential work, a chance to earn, a way to get through another day. Just as you're about to leave, the butcher steps out of his shop. He's a large man, his hands stained with blood, a sign of his trade. Despite his success, his keen eyes notice your father's situation, the careful way he cradles his injured hand. "You're dock worker Clark, aren't you?" He says, "Do you remember me from the ship and the Compass pub?" Your father straightens a bit, a sense of dignity coming back as he is recognized, remembered as more than just a faceless worker. "That's right, sir, even though he's not at the docks at the moment." He gestures vaguely at his hand, and the butcher nods, having heard about that. "Bad business?" He hesitates, then adds, "Got bones and scraps to sell cheap if you're interested. Good for soup, better than what most get. This is not charity. The butcher will still profit. But it's a small concession to shared humanity, to the recognition that winter makes victims of even the hardest workers. Appreciate that," your father says, maintaining his pride even in need. "Might take you up on it, sick boy at home." The butcher disappears back into his shop, returning with a package wrapped in paper, 3p, he says, naming a price below even his usual discount. "Good marrow bones and some stewing cuts. More meat than bone, which isn't my usual practice, mind." Your father counts out 3 of his precious 6 pennies without hesitation. Meat means protein, means strength, means a fighting chance for Jamie to recover. "My wife makes a good bone broth," he says as he takes the package. This small talk, a way of maintaining dignity in the transaction. Been too long since the children had proper meat. The butcher nods, accepting this fiction that the purchase is a choice rather than desperate necessity. Builds strength in winter. He agrees worth the expense, this exchange. The pretense of normal commerce layered over the reality of near starvation is part of how the poor maintain humanity in inhumane conditions. Everyone knows the truth, but the polite fiction preserves essential dignity. With your wages and the precious meat secured, you and your father begin the long walk home. The temperature has dropped further as night deepens and a light snow has begun to fall. Beautiful in wealthier neighborhoods where it dusts elegant facades and wrought iron fences, but dangerous in the slums where it hides ice patches and freezes already inadequate housing. "Should get more coal," your father says as you pass a merchant selling fuel from a cart. One of the few still operating as darkness falls. "The meat will help. But without heat, he doesn't need to finish. Without adequate heat, even the best food won't save a child with pneumonia." 2 more precious pennies gone for a small sack of coal. Expensive at this hour when the merchant knows buyers have few options. You heft it onto your shoulder, ignoring the way the cold has worked into your muscles, making every movement painful. I don't think a lot of people realize that cold actually physically hurts. I'm talking real intense pain, especially in your extremities. During my research, I interviewed an Arctic explorer who described the sensation perfectly. It's like being stabbed with thousands of tiny needles, then having your skin set on fire when you finally warm up. Victorian Londoners felt this pain daily for months. The familiar streets of your neighborhood offer little comfort as you approach home. If anything, they seem more desperate at night, darker, dirtier. The smell of poverty more pronounced as waste freezes in gutters and smoke hangs heavy in the still air. Outside your tenement building, a small crowd has gathered. Never a good sign. Crowds in the slums usually mean disaster. Fire, accident, violence, or worst of all, eviction. Your father quickens his pace, pushing through the onlookers with you close behind. To your relief, the focus of attention isn't your family's room, but the building's main water pipe, which has frozen and burst, sending a spray of water into the street, where it's already forming a dangerous ice slick. The landlord, a thin, sour-faced man rarely seen except when collecting rent, stands helplessly beside a plumber who shakes his head at the damage. "Can't fix it tonight," the plumber is saying as you pass. "Need daylight and warmer weather." "Temporary patch is the best I can do, and who pays for all this?" The landlord demands, gesturing at the ice-covered street. No one mentions the tenants who will bear the real cost. Days without water except what can be carried from the public pump 3 streets away. In winter, this means greater hardship, more time spent in the cold, more energy expended on a basic necessity. You exchange a glance with your father. One more challenge in a season of challenges. Inside your room, the scene is both better and worse than you feared. The fire burns reasonably well. Emma must have used most of the remaining coal, and the space is warm enough that no one's breath is visible. But Jamie lies motionless on the bed, his face flushed with fever, his breathing still labored despite the mustard plaster visible on his chest. Your mother looks up as you enter, her expression brightening slightly at the sight of the packages in your hands. "You found work," she says, relief evident in her voice. "Delivery cart," your father confirms. "Decent pay and more promised for tomorrow, maybe." You unwrap the food first, the gift from the cook and the purchased meat, laying it out on the small table like treasure, which it is. Protein, fat, calories, the building blocks of survival that have been in such short supply, all real meat, Emma whispers, her eyes wide at the unexpected bounty, and cheese. Your mother is already moving to the fire, placing the pot of water that never leaves the hearth during winter. We'll make broth first, she decides. Something Jamie can swallow even with his throat so sore. The bone broth takes time, the marrow and scraps of meat simmering to extract every bit of nutrition. The smell fills the small room, rich, savory. A reminder of better times and proper meals. Even Jamie stirs at the scent, his eyes opening briefly before sliding closed again. While the broth cooks, you tell your mother about the burst pipe. The coming water shortage, she sighs but doesn't complain. Complaining changes nothing. We'll manage, she says simply. Mrs. Higgins has that big rain barrel. She'll share. This is slum solidarity. The understanding that survival depends on mutual aid. Mrs. Higgins will share her water. Someday you'll share your coal or food or medicine with her. No one keeps strict accounts. Everyone just does what they can, when they can. The butcher's meat yields a surprisingly rich broth, testament to his small kindness in giving you better cuts than the price warranted. Your mother skims the precious fat from the top. Saving it for later use, nothing is wasted in winter. Then pours a small amount into a cup. Let's try to get some into him, she says, moving to Jamie's side. The process is painfully slow, raising his head, coaxing a spoonful of broth between his lips, waiting to make sure he swallows rather than chokes. Some dribbles down his chin, but most goes in, and after several spoonfuls, his eyes open more fully. "Tastes good," he whispers. The first coherent words he's spoken all day. Your mother's eyes fill with tears that she quickly blinks away. "There's plenty more," she promises. "You just rest and get strong." The remainder of the food is divided carefully. Small portions that seem like a feast after days of near starvation. Your father insists that you and Emma take the largest chairs. "Growing children need it most," he says firmly, allowing no argument. In truth, a working man needs calories too, especially one recovering from injury who hopes to work again tomorrow. But paternal sacrifice is as much a part of winter as the cold itself, another way the poor hold on to humanity in inhuman conditions. The meal and the better fire transform the room's atmosphere. Stomachs at least partially filled, extremities no longer numb with cold. The constant edge of panic recedes slightly. Not safety, not security, but a brief respite from immediate crisis. Your father sorts the remaining coins, 3 pence left from his wages, all 6 of yours intact, 9 pence total. A fortune by recent standards, enough for coal tomorrow and perhaps bread, with something left for emergencies, if the Carter takes us on again and Jamie improves. We might actually get ahead, he says, allowing himself rare optimism. Might even afford to pay the doctor something when he returns tomorrow, pride again. The need to be seen as paying one's way even when the doctor expects nothing. The poor cannot afford pride as a rule, but they cling to scraps of it nonetheless, essential to human dignity, as if summoned by the mention. A knock at the door makes everyone start. The hour is late for visitors, nearly 9 by the church bell's last chiming. Your mother opens the door cautiously to reveal not the doctor, but Mrs. Higgins again, her face tight with worry. "Sorry to disturb," she begins, then stops, her eyes widening at the sight of Jamie propped up on the bed. Sipping broth. "He's better. A little," your mother confirms. "The doctor's remedy and some good broth. What brings you out so late?" Mrs. Higgins seems to remember her purpose. It's the water pipe. The landlord's posted notice. No repairs for at least 3 days, he says. And they've closed the local pump for cleaning. She twists her hands anxiously with my youngest still feverish. "I can't manage the walk to Chester Street for water. I wondered if I'll go in the morning." Your father says immediately, "Fetch enough for both families." "We couldn't ask," Mrs. Higgins begins. But your father waves away her protest, not asking, offering. "Your Tom brought Jamie a top when he was well." Neighbors help neighbors. The exchange is simple, matter of fact, but it represents the complex economy of survival in the slums. Favors given and received, help offered, without expectation of immediate return, but with the understanding that the community survives together or not at all. After Mrs. Higgins leaves, the family prepares for night. The improved fire means slightly better sleeping arrangements, you and Emma still on the floor, but with a blanket that doesn't feel like ice against your skin. Your father will take first watch by Jamie, then your mother. With you covering the pre-dawn hours as usual. Try to sleep properly. Your mother tells you as you settle on your makeshift bed. You'll need strength for tomorrow. Sleep comes more easily tonight. Your body surrendering to exhaustion, comforted by the relative warmth and the small security of food in your stomach. Money in the tin box, and Jamie's slight improvement. Dreams come in fragments. Summer days, full meals, a world without the constant presence of cold and hunger. In sleep, winter releases its grip on your mind, allowing brief escape from the reality that will return with waking. Something wakes you in the darkest hours, a sound, a movement, something your sleeping mind registers as wrong. You open your eyes to find the room lit only by the dying fire. Your father sleeps sitting up against the wall, exhaustion having claimed him despite his intention to watch over Jamie. Your mother has taken over, her silhouette visible beside the bed, but it's not her movement that woke you. A subtle wrongness permeates the room, a change in the sound of Jamie's breathing. Instead of the wet rattle that's been constant for days, his breath comes in short, rapid gasps, each one seeming more desperate than the last. You rise quietly, careful not to wake Emma, who sleeps beside you, and move to your mother's side. Her face in the faint firelight shows naked fear, all pretense of confidence stripped away in this darkest part of night. He's worse, she whispers. Much worse, the fever's back and he can't seem to get air. Jamie's face is flushed dark red with fever and effort, his small chest heaving as he fights for each breath. His eyes are open but unfocused, seeing nothing, all his energy directed toward the increasingly desperate battle to breathe. Should we try more laudanum, you suggest, eyeing the small bottle on the table. Your mother hesitates. The doctor said only twice a day. Too much good. She doesn't finish, but you understand. The medicine that eases breathing can also slow it completely if given too generously. I'll get the doctor, you decide, already reaching for your coat. He said to call him for significant changes. It's the middle of the night, your mother protests weakly. And the snow. If we wait until morning, it could be too late. The words hang in the air between you. The fear made real by speaking it. Jamie could die before dawn. The knowledge is in your mother's face, in the way she clutches her youngest child's hand, in the desperate way she nods acceptance of your plan. Be careful, is all she says as you finish dressing. The streets are dangerous this late. She means more than ice and cold. Night brings out London's predators, human and otherwise. Footpads who would kill for the few coins in your pocket. Drunks who fight without provocation. Feral dogs that roam in hungry packs. The risks are substantial. But the greater risk lies in Jamie's increasingly labored breathing. In the rattle that's changing from wet to desperate. No choice, really. No choice at all. You slip out without waking your father or Emma. Let them sleep while they can. Soon enough, they'll either be celebrating improvement or grieving loss. Either way, they'll need their strength. Outside, the night has transformed London again. Snow falls steadily now, already several inches deep on the ground, smoothing the city's harsh edges, hiding its filth beneath a layer of deceptive purity. In wealthy neighborhoods, it might look magical. Here, it's just one more layer of difficulty, one more obstacle between survival and surrender. The cold hits like a physical blow after the relative warmth of your room. Your breath catches, your lungs protesting the shock, your eyes watering in the bitter wind. For a moment, you consider turning back, the journey suddenly seeming impossible. The cold too intense, the distance too great. But Jamie's desperate gasping echoes in your memory. Forward then, one step, then another, into the night, into the snow, into the heart of winter's power. For Jamie, for family, for survival itself. The streets are eerily empty, most sensible Londoners long abed. Only the truly desperate or dangerous abroad at this hour. Your footsteps crunch in the fresh snow, seeming unnaturally loud in the muffled silence. Occasionally you pass evidence of other night walkers. Footprints leading down alleys. A forgotten glove frozen to a railing. Once a splash of something dark that might be wine but is probably blood. London after midnight belongs to its shadows, to its secrets, to those parts of society that can't bear daylight scrutiny. You move quickly, head down, trying to project purpose rather than vulnerability. Looking like prey attracts predators. The journey that took an hour this morning seems endless now, each street blending into the next, landmarks hidden by snow or transformed by darkness. Twice you make wrong turns, having to backtrack. Precious minutes lost in the increasingly desperate race against Jamie's failing breath. A church clock strikes 3 as you finally reach the doctor's street, the hollow sound barely penetrating the thick falling snow. The houses here are respectable, middle class. Their windows dark, their residents safely asleep in warm beds with full stomachs. The doctor's house is distinguished by the small brass plate beside the door. Now dusted with snow, you hesitate before knocking, the action suddenly seeming presumptuous, the urgency of your mission wavering in the face of social hierarchy and proper behavior. But Jamie's face, contorted with the effort to breathe, pushes aside such concerns. You knock firmly, then again more loudly when no response comes. Finally, a light appears in an upstairs window, and moments later the door opens to reveal the doctor in a dressing gown, hair disheveled from sleep, expression caught between professional concern and personal irritation. "What is it?" he demands, then recognizes you, the clerk boy. "Has there been a change?" He can't breathe properly, you explain, the words tumbling out. "It's different than before, faster, more desperate. My mother's afraid." You can't finish the sentence. Can't speak the fear aloud to this near stranger. The doctor, however, understands immediately. He's seen this progression before, has watched countless children struggle for breath as fluid fills their lungs, has stood helpless as too many lost the battle. "Wait here," he says, leaving the door ajar as he disappears back into the house. He returns minutes later, fully dressed, medical bag in hand. Without asking permission, the doctor assumes such rights. He places 2 fingers against your throat, checking your pulse, then peers at your face in the dim light of the hallway. "You walked all the way from your district in this." He gestures at the heavily falling snow visible through the still open door. "That's nearly 2 miles. You nod. Not seeing the relevance, of course you walked. How else would you have come? The doctor shakes his head slightly, perhaps at your endurance, perhaps at the desperation that drove it. "Well, you can't walk back in this. It's worsening by the minute. We'll take my carriage." This unexpected kindness, using his own carriage, risking his horse in the snowstorm, for a slum family who cannot possibly pay him, catches you off guard. The doctor notes your surprise, with a small, tired smile. "Contrary to what you might think, boy, I didn't become a parish doctor for the money. Now come quickly, if the breathing has changed. As you describe, we have little time." The doctor's carriage is small, but well maintained, the horse, a sturdy creature. Clearly used to London's difficult streets, you sit awkwardly on the edge of the seat, painfully aware of the snow melting from your boots onto the clean floor. The smell of poverty you carry with you into this space of relative luxury. "Tell me more about the change in breathing," the doctor says. As he guides the horse through snow-clogged streets, you describe what you witnessed, the increased pace, the desperate quality, the way Jamie's whole body seemed focused on the struggle for air. The doctor listens without interrupting, his face giving away nothing of his thoughts, and the fever returned after seeming to break. He asks. You nod. "My mother said he felt cooler earlier in the evening. After we got some broth into him, then it came back worse." The doctor makes a non-committal sound. "Secondary infection, perhaps. Not uncommon with pneumonia." The casual clinical assessment sends a chill through you. Unrelated to the winter night, this is just another case to him, one of dozens he'll see this winter. But for you, it's Jamie's life, hanging in the balance. Bright, curious Jamie who collects interesting stones and makes up stories about cloud shapes and laughs at your terrible jokes. The carriage struggles through increasingly heavy snow, the wheels sometimes catching, the horse snorting clouds of steam as it labors forward. The doctor mutters under his breath, not at you, but at the weather, the delay, the difficult journey. "Time matters in these cases," he says, more to himself than to you. "Catch it early enough." He doesn't finish the thought, but you understand the implication. There's a point beyond which even medical knowledge can't help, a threshold past which a child's struggling lungs simply cannot recover. The question hanging in the frigid air between you, has Jamie already crossed that threshold? When the carriage finally reaches your tenement, the snow is falling so heavily that the wheels can go no further. The doctor tethers the horse to a nearby post, hefts his medical bag and follows you through the building's entrance and up the creaking stairs. The journey that seemed endless on foot has taken mere minutes by carriage, a vivid illustration of how differently time moves for different social classes. Even in crisis, your mother's face when you enter shows both relief and intensified fear. Glad to see the doctor, but terrified of what his presence in the middle of the night might confirm. Your father is awake now, standing protectively near the bed while Emma stokes the fire higher than usual economy would allow. Jamie lies unnaturally still, each breath visibly taxing his small body. The doctor moves to the bedside immediately, his professional demeanor taking over, personal discomfort at the surroundings set aside. He listens to Jamie's chest, feels his fevered skin, checks his pulse, peers into his throat with a small mirror and lamp from his bag. The examination seems to take forever, each moment stretching as the family watches in tense silence. reading the doctor's face for clues, searching for hope in his neutral expression. Finally, he straightens, turning to face you all. The infection has moved deeper into the lungs, he says, his voice carefully modulated to convey seriousness without panic. The fluid is significant. Your mother makes a small sound. Quickly stifled, is there? Can you? She can't form the question. Fear choking the words. The doctor hesitates, weighing truth against hope, professional honesty against human kindness. I'll be direct with you, he says finally. His condition is grave. In the hospital, we would attempt a procedure to drain the fluid, but here, he glances around the small room, the inadequate light, the less than sterile conditions. There must be something, your father says, his voice rough with emotion normally kept carefully contained. The doctor reaches into his bag, removing several bottles. We can try aggressive treatments, he says. I have stronger medicine than what I left previously, but I must be honest, the outcome is uncertain. This clinical language, outcome, uncertain, is his way of the possibility of Jamie's death without saying the words directly. A kindness of sorts, allowing the family to maintain hope while beginning to brace for loss. The next hour passes in a blur of activity. The doctor administers various medicines, applies hot compresses to Jamie's chest, shows your mother how to position him to ease breathing. Everyone helps, your father boiling water for the compresses, Emma maintaining the fire at its hottest, you running to neighbors for clean rags when the doctor requests them. Through it all, Jamie remains frighteningly still between moments of gasping struggle, his normally energetic body eerily passive, all strength directed toward the simple, essential act of drawing breath. Now we wait, the doctor says finally, packing away some of his implements. The next few hours will tell us whether the treatments have effect. Your father walks to the window, staring out at the still falling snow. You can't go back in this, he says to the doctor. Roads will be impassable soon. The doctor follows his gaze, frowning at the worsening storm. I should stay regardless, he says after a moment. The boy will need monitoring and the medicines may require adjustment. This decision to remain in a slum dwelling to spend hours with a poor family goes well beyond his professional obligations as a parish doctor. Usually such physicians make brief visits, dispense basic treatments, and move quickly to the next case. Their time is stretched too thin for real care, their resources too limited for proper treatment. Your mother seems to recognize the unusual nature of his choice. We're grateful, she says simply, the words inadequate for the emotion behind them. The doctor nods awkwardly, uncomfortable with gratitude. Perhaps some tea, he suggests, changing the subject to more practical matters, and the fire should be maintained at this level if possible. Tea, a simple request that highlights the complex economics of poverty. The precious real tea purchased yesterday is gone, used in last night's meal. What remains is twice-used leaves, barely able to color hot water, let alone provide the restorative drink the doctor expects. Your mother looks at you, a silent communication passing between you. The last 6 pennies meant for tomorrow's coal could buy fresh tea. The calculation is immediate. Jamie's life against tomorrow's warmth. No choice at all, really. I'll get some, you say, reaching for your still damp coat. In this storm, the doctor looks surprised. Surely you have something in the house, just tea. The casual assumption that even the poorest home would have such a basic staple reveals the gap between his world and yours. Your father intervenes, pride making him straighten despite his exhaustion. We're a bit short at present, he says, the careful phrasing disguising absolute poverty as temporary inconvenience, been focused on medicine for the boy. Understanding dawns on the doctor's face. Of course, he says quickly, but please don't go out again in this weather. I've imposed enough by staying. Water is perfectly adequate. Tea's better for strength, your mother insists, and we'd want to offer proper hospitality to someone helping our Jamie. Pride again, even in crisis, even in poverty. The need to maintain certain standards, to not appear completely destitute before outsiders. The doctor recognizes the sentiment and respects it. Changing tactics, actually, he says, reaching into his bag again. I often carry tea with me for long nights. He produces a small tin, if you'd be kind enough to prepare it. That would be most welcome. This fiction that he routinely carries tea, rather than adding it to his bag specifically for house calls in poor districts, allows your family to accept without loss of dignity. A small kindness layered within the larger one of his continued presence. While your mother prepares the tea, the doctor sits beside Jamie, occasionally checking his pulse, adjusting the compresses, administering small doses of medicine when the breathing becomes too labored. His dedication is unexpected, a reminder that not all who serve the poor do so reluctantly or without compassion. "You're not what I expected," your father says quietly, joining the doctor by Jamie's bedside. The doctor glances up, a hint of amusement in his tired eyes. "And what did you expect?" Your father shrugs. "Someone who'd do the minimum, write it off as another slum child beyond help." "I was that doctor once," he admits, surprising everyone with his candor. "Early in my career, overwhelmed by the scale of suffering, the impossibility of meaningful change, it seemed easier to become detached." "What changed?" Emma asks. "Bringing him the cup of tea your mother has prepared." The doctor accepts it with a nod of thanks. "A case very much like this one," he says after taking a sip. "A child with pneumonia. A family doing everything possible with impossibly limited resources." He looks down at Jamie. "I gave the usual treatments," said the usual words and left, already mentally moving on to the next case. 3 days later, I returned to find the child had died. "And the mother?" He stops, perhaps remembering that he's speaking to a family in the same precarious position. "It was a turning point," he continues more carefully. "I realized that detachment wasn't protecting me from anything worth being protected from. It was just preventing me from being the doctor I intended to be when I chose this profession." This glimpse into his personal history creates a momentary bridge across the vast social gap between him and your family. Not friendship, not equality, but a small connection of shared humanity in the face of winter's cruelty. Outside, the storm continues to worsen, snow piling against the window, finding its way through cracks to form small drifts on the interior sill. The wind howls down the narrow street, its moaning a background to Jamie's labored breathing, nature's lament echoing human suffering. By dawn, the room has settled into a strange, tense routine. The doctor dozes in the room's single chair, waking at the slightest change in Jamie's breathing. Your mother sits beside the bed, constantly adjusting blankets, wiping Jamie's forehead, whispering encouragements he may not hear. Your father maintains the fire at its highest level, using coal at a rate that would normally be unthinkable. A silent acknowledgement that warmth now matters more than tomorrow's reserves. You and Emma take turns fetching fresh snow to melt for water, the burst pipe having left the building dry. Each trip outside reveals a London transformed. Streets nearly impassable, normal activity suspended, the usual morning traffic of workers and vendors replaced by eerie silence, broken only by the occasional sound of snow sliding from rooftops. "Never seen it this bad," your father comments, looking out at the white wasteland that was your street. "Not since the winter of '38, maybe." The doctor joins him at the window. "It's citywide," he confirms. "My rounds today will be challenging, if not impossible." The implication is clear. He's thinking beyond Jamie's case. To the dozens of other patients who will be expecting his visit, many in conditions as desperate as your brother's, the weight of so many lives dependent on one man's knowledge and presence, as if sensing these thoughts. Your father turns to him. "When it's safe to travel, you shouldn't feel obligated to stay. We can follow your instructions." The doctor shakes his head. "The roads won't be passable for hours yet. Possibly all day, and your son," he glances at Jamie. "The next few hours remain critical." Critical. The word hangs in the air, its medical meaning and everyday significance converging on a simple truth. Jamie is still fighting for his life. The outcome still uncertain. Around 8 o'clock, by the distant chiming of church bells, barely audible through the storm, a change comes over Jamie. His breathing, which has maintained its desperate rhythm through the night, suddenly becomes more erratic, faster then slower, sometimes stopping altogether for terrifying seconds before resuming. The doctor moves quickly to his side, pressing an ear to his chest, lifting eyelids to check pupils, feeling for the pulse in his throat. His expression, carefully neutral until now, shows the first signs of real concern. "The medicine should have shown some effect by now," he murmurs, more to himself than to the watching family. He straightens, making a decision. "We need to try something more aggressive." From his bag, he produces a small case containing a needle and vial. "This is a stronger stimulant," he explains. Filling the syringe with practice deficiency, it carries risks. But at this point, the greater risk lies in doing nothing. Your mother's face shows fear, but also resignation. The desperate calculus of watching a child slip away makes any risk worth taking. She nods permission, turning her face aside as the doctor administers the injection. Unable to watch this invasion of her child's already suffering body, the effect is not immediate. For long minutes, nothing seems to change. Jamie continues his irregular breathing, each gasp and pause torturing the watching family. Then gradually a more regular rhythm emerges. The desperate quality diminishes slightly. The pauses between breaths become shorter, more consistent. The doctor listens to his chest again, nodding slightly to himself. Better, he says cautiously. The airways are opening somewhat. His body is fighting, so he'll recover, Emma asks, hope making her voice younger, more vulnerable than her usual stoic demeanor. The doctor chooses his words carefully. He's responding to treatment, which is a positive sign, but with pneumonia, especially in winter conditions. He glances at the snow still visible through the window. We must remain cautious in our expectations. This measured response, neither false hope nor premature despair, is perhaps the most honest interaction the doctor has had with your family. Not the practiced detachment of his early visit, not the unexpected compassion of his overnight stay, but a careful balance of medical truth and human kindness. The morning crawls forward, marked by small improvements in Jamie's condition. His fever reduces slightly. His breathing becomes more regular. He occasionally stirs or murmurs in his sleep-like state. Each small change is noted, celebrated cautiously, added to the fragile structure of hope the family is building. Around midday, a knock at the door startles everyone. Visitors are unlikely in such weather, the storm having shut down normal neighborhood activity. Your father opens it to reveal Mrs. Higgins, her shawl white with snow, her face pinched with cold. Heard the doctor's carriage was outside all night, she says without preamble, her eyes going immediately to Jamie. How is the boy? Fighting, your mother replies, the single word conveying both the gravity of the situation and the refusal to surrender to it. Mrs. Higgins nods. Understanding everything not said, brought this, she says, holding out a covered pot, broth from our Sunday bone. Better than nothing for keeping up strength, the Sunday bone. The single piece of meat a working family might afford for the week's one special meal. For Mrs. Higgins to share it, especially given her own children's needs, represents sacrifice beyond normal neighborly kindness. You shouldn't have. Your mother begins. The token protest required by pride, nonsense. Mrs. Higgins cuts her off. Your boy needs it more than mine today. Tomorrow, who knows? We help each other through winter. Only way any of us survive, this simple statement, we help each other through winter, encapsulates the slum philosophy of survival, not charity as the wealthy conceive it, not the institutional cold comfort of workhouses and parish relief, but direct personal sharing of whatever one has when another's need is greater. The doctor, watching this exchange, seems both moved and uncomfortable, perhaps seeing more clearly the vast web of mutual aid that exists beneath the surface of slum poverty, a system invisible to most of his social class, who imagine the poor as merely waiting for handouts. The broth is quickly warming on the fire, its rich smell filling the small room. Even in illness, Jamie responds to it, turning his head slightly toward the source. His first voluntary movement in hours. A good sign, the doctor says, noting the reaction, awareness returning. Hope flares stronger in this simple observation, not just breathing but responding, not just existing but participating, however minimally, in the world around him. Outside, the storm has begun to ease, snow still falling but less forcefully, wind diminishing from howl to whisper. London will begin to dig itself out, to create paths through the drifts, to resume the essential activities that keep the massive city functioning. The doctor moves to the window, studying the changed landscape. I should be able to make my rounds soon, he says, his tone suggesting reluctance rather than eagerness to leave. There will be others needing attention after such a storm. Your father nods, understanding the implicit apology. You've done more than enough for us, he says, staying the night, using your own medicines. The unspoken question of payment hangs awkwardly between them. Parish doctors are paid by the parish, not directly by patients but extra services, special medicines, house calls beyond required visits. These sometimes come with expectations of additional compensation. Your father makes a decision, moving to the loose floorboard where the family's meager savings are hidden. The precious 6 pence you had planned to spend on tea earlier, the last of your money, are extracted and offered with simple dignity. It's not much, your father acknowledges, but we'd like to compensate you for the special medicines and your time. The doctor looks at the coins, at the proud man offering them, at the room showing every sign of desperate poverty managed with dignity. For a moment, he seems about to refuse the natural response of relative wealth to such a meager sum offered at such obvious cost. But something in your father's face stops him. The need to provide, to pay his way, to maintain the fiction of equal exchange rather than charity. The doctor reaches out and takes 3 of the 6 pennies. This covers the medicine, he says formally. My time is already compensated by the parish. This compromise, accepting half the offered amount, justifying it specifically, allows your father to maintain dignity while still leaving the family with some small reserve. Another small kindness in a night of unexpected compassion. I'll return this evening. The doctor continues gathering his things. Earlier, if the roads clear quickly, continue with the compresses and the medicine I've left. Send for me immediately if his breathing worsens again. As he prepares to leave, Jamie stirs more definitively, his eyes opening partially. Unfocused but undeniably conscious, thirsty, he whispers. The first coherent word he's spoken since the crisis deepened. Your mother is beside him instantly, helping him sip water, tears streaming silently down her face. Tears of relief, of hope, cautiously embraced, of exhaustion, finally finding release. The doctor pauses at the door, watching this scene with an expression caught between professional satisfaction and personal emotion. He's young, he says quietly to your father, strong despite everything, if he's made it this far. He doesn't finish the thought. But the message is clear. Hope is justified now, not just desperate wishful thinking. After he leaves, the room seems both emptier and lighter, missing his authoritative presence but freed from the tension of performing poverty with dignity for outside eyes. Your mother sings softly to Jamie as she feeds him more water. Your father allows himself to sit finally, the strain of the night visible in his slumped shoulders and lined face. We should try to sleep, he says, though it's midday. Take turns watching him. No one argues. The night's vigil has drained everyone and sleep has been scarce and fragmented for days. You volunteer for the first watch, settling beside Jamie's bed while the others find spaces on the floor. Exhaustion quickly claiming them despite the uncomfortable arrangements. Jamie looks at you through half-closed eyes. Recognition flickering. Did I? He begins, his voice a whisper. Did I nearly die? The direct question, so typical of children's unfiltered perception, catches you off guard. You were very sick, you answer carefully. But you're getting better now. He seems to consider this, his fever-bright eyes more aware than they've been in days. I heard you all, he says. Even when I couldn't open my eyes, I heard everyone talking. This simple statement that even in the depths of illness, he maintained some connection to the world, to his family, feels profound. Winter tries to isolate, to separate, to break connections. But human bonds persist even through its worst assaults. Rest now, you tell him, smoothing back his damp hair. Just focus on getting stronger. Outside, the snow has stopped completely. Weak winter sunlight breaks through the clouds, sending beams of light through the window to create patterns on the worn floorboards. In the street below, voices can be heard, neighbors calling to each other, comparing stories of the storm. Beginning the work of clearing paths, London is emerging from the snow's temporary halting of normal life. Returning to its rhythms of survival, your family too is emerging from the crisis that nearly claimed its youngest member. Not safe, not secure. Winter still holds the city in its grip. Poverty still constrains your options. Disease still threatens. But for this moment, in this room, with Jamie's breathing easing and his fever reducing, there is a pause in the constant battle, a moment of grace in winter's siege. The afternoon passes in a rhythm of small improvements. Jamie takes more broth, his fever drops further. His breathing, while still labored, loses the desperate quality that signaled imminent danger. Your family moves around the sickbed with cautious optimism, daring to believe in recovery. While still bracing for setbacks outside, London digs itself out from under the snow. The sounds of shovels scraping against pavement drift up from the street, along with calls and occasional laughter, as the shared task of clearing paths creates temporary community among neighbors who might otherwise barely acknowledge each other. Your father wakes from his brief sleep with renewed determination. I should check if the carter needs help, he says, pulling on his boots. After yesterday's work, he might expect us. And we need the money more than ever now. The medical crisis has depleted both your physical and financial reserves. The coal used to maintain the higher temperature, the special foods needed for Jamie's recovery, the pennies given to the doctor, all necessary expenses, but all draining the fragile security your family had begun to build. The roads will still be bad, your mother cautions, and your hand is well enough for work, he interrupts, flexing the injured fingers with only a slight wince. We can't afford for it not to be, this simple truth, that poverty allows no real recovery time, that injuries must be worked through, pain ignored, is so fundamental to your existence that it hardly needs stating. But the storm has added new urgency, new desperation to the equation. I'll come too, you offer. Already reaching for your coat, your father hesitates. Glancing at Jamie, someone should stay. In case he worsens again, I can manage, your mother says firmly. Emma will help. You two bring back what we need. What remains unspoken, if Jamie takes a turn for the worse, there's little more that can be done without the doctor anyway, and the need for income is immediate, pressing. The street when you emerge is both familiar and transformed. Snow piled in drifts against buildings, narrow paths carved through where people have begun to move about, icicles hanging from eaves like crystal decorations. In wealthy districts, such scenes might look charming, picturesque. Here the beauty is overshadowed by practical dangers. Ice that means falls and broken bones, snow that means wet feet and pneumonia. Paths too narrow for deliveries of coal or food. Half the city will be shut down today. Your father observes as you make your way carefully through the slush. Shops closed, deliveries halted, bad for business. Good for laborers, you suggest? They'll need extra hands to clear all this. Your father nods, always quick to see opportunity in difficulty. Might be better wages than the usual, if we can find the right spots. This is winter strategy for the working poor. Knowing where to be when, understanding which emergencies translate to temporary work opportunities, being flexible enough to turn from one job to another as conditions change. The butcher shop when you reach it is indeed closed to customers. A sign on the front door announcing no deliveries today due to weather. But activity at the back entrance tells a different story. The butcher himself and several men are clearing snow from the delivery area, creating access for when supplies eventually resume. Clerk the butcher calls when he spots your father. Good timing. Needs strong backs today. The work is simple but exhausting, shoveling snow for hours. Clearing not just the delivery area, but the paths to the shop front and the adjacent street. The cold makes every movement an effort, muscles stiffening, breath burning in lungs. But the pay offered is better than usual. Emergency rates, the butcher calls it. And there's the unspoken promise of continuing work with the delivery cart once roads are passable again. By midday, other laborers have joined the effort, and the butcher sends several of you to help clear paths for neighboring businesses. The baker, the greengrocer, the tobacconist each pays a small amount. The coins accumulating in your pocket providing a weight of security that makes the back-breaking work worthwhile. Heard about your boy, the baker says quietly to your father as you finish clearing his front step. Mrs. Higgins mentioned it when she came for bread this morning. How's he faring? Better? Your father replies the single word containing both relief and lingering worry. Doctor stayed the night. Says he's turned a corner. The baker nods, understanding the unspoken fear that still underlies the cautious hope. My youngest had the lung fever 2 winters back, he says, his eyes distant with memory. Thought we'd lose him for certain. Now he's apprenticed in Chelsea, strong as an ox. This sharing of survival stories is another part of winter's culture among the working class. Not empty reassurance, but evidence-based hope. Reminders that others have faced similar trials and emerged intact. The baker disappears into his shop, returning with a small loaf wrapped in cloth. Day old, he says, handing it to your father. Can't sell it anyway with the weather keeping customers home. Might help the boy's strength. Like the butcher's discount on meat, this is not pure charity, which might offend pride, but business pragmatism softened with human concern. Your father accepts with a nod of thanks, tucking the bread carefully inside his coat where it won't get damp from the snow. By late afternoon, exhaustion is setting in. Hours of shoveling in the cold have left both you and your father trembling with fatigue, fingers numb despite constant movement. Feet soaked inside inadequate boots, but the combined earnings from the day's work are substantial by your standards. Enough for coal, food, and still some to set aside for tomorrow's needs. We should head back, your father says, studying the darkening sky. Storms blown out, but nights still dangerous with all this ice. The walk home seems longer than usual, your tired legs protesting each step. The cold finding new ways to penetrate clothing already damp from exertion and melted snow. But there's satisfaction in the weight of coins in your pocket, in the bread tucked safely away, in having found work when so many others might be idle due to the storm. The neighborhood appears different as you approach, not just from the snow which is now trampled and dirty along the main paths, but from a subtle shift in activity. People gather in small groups outside buildings, voices raised in what might be argument or might be excitement. Hard to tell from a distance. Something's happened, your father says, quickening his pace despite his exhaustion. As you draw closer, Mrs. Higgins detaches from one such group, hurrying toward you with unusual animation in her normally stoic face. You haven't heard, she calls. The pipe burst damaged Collins's ceiling so badly it collapsed. The landlord's been forced to call in repairs for the whole building. This news, unexpected, almost unbelievable, takes a moment to process. Repairs to tenement buildings are rare. Landlords typically patching problems in the cheapest possible manner, or simply ignoring them until they become truly dangerous. A collapsed ceiling, however, can't be ignored. It threatens the structural integrity of the whole building, and even the most negligent landlord can't risk the complete loss of a property. They're checking all the rooms, Mrs. Higgins continues as you reach her, looking for other weak spots, and the parish officer came with them. Said it wasn't fit habitation with the water pipe still broken. Parish officer, your father's expression darkens. Parish involvement often means unwanted attention. Judgments about living conditions that could lead to children being removed to workhouses or families evicted for unhealthy living. Mrs. Higgins senses his concern. Don't worry, he's one of the better ones. More focused on making the landlord fix things than on moving people out. She lowers her voice. Between us, I think he's got it in for Mr. Phillips after that business last winter with the Thompson family freezing to death in one of his other buildings. This reference to a tragedy you remember well. A mother and 2 small children found frozen in their room after the landlord refused to repair a broken window. Puts the current situation in perspective. Sometimes official intervention, while risky, is the only force that can compel landlords to maintain even minimally safe conditions. Have they been to our floor? Yet you ask. Thinking of your mother and siblings alone in the room, Jamie still recovering. Working their way up, Mrs. Higgins replies. Started at the ground where the worst damage is. They should reach you by evening. Your father nods his thanks for the information, then continues toward the building entrance. His pace quickening despite his fatigue. You follow close behind, both of you navigating around clusters of displaced residents, workers carrying tools, and the general chaos of unexpected activity in a normally neglected building. Inside, the stairwell is busier than you've ever seen it. Children running up and down enjoying the novelty of something happening. Adults gathering on landings to exchange information and speculation. Workers in caps and rough clothes moving purposefully between floors with toolboxes and materials. When you reach your room, you find your mother standing in the doorway watching a parish officer and the landlord. Mr. Phillips examined the ceiling near your window, where water damage has created an ominous dark stain. Emma sits beside Jamie's bed, positioned protectively between the visitors and her sick brother. Mr. Clark, the landlord says, his tone artificially pleasant, the voice he uses when official eyes are watching. Just explaining to your good wife that repairs will be necessary throughout the building. This ceiling shows significant water damage, the parish officer, a thin man with a ledger and pencil, nods in agreement. Unsafe conditions, he pronounces, making a note. Repairs to be completed within the week per housing ordinance requirements. This formal language, ordinance requirements, is both threatening to the landlord and reassuring to you. It means official record of the problems, documentation that can be used to enforce actual repairs rather than the cosmetic patches Mr. Phillips typically provides. The water pipes, your father asks, addressing the question to the officer rather than the landlord. Plumber arrives tomorrow, the officer replies, still writing in his ledger. Temporary measures tonight. Water barrels on each floor. Full replacement of damaged sections to begin at first light. These specific commitments noted in an official record are worth more than any casual promise from Mr. Phillips, whose word alone has proven worthless in the past. The landlord's face shows poorly concealed resentment. Each repair represents expense. Each official order a challenge to his usual practice of minimal maintenance. But with the parish officer present, he can only nod agreement. His usual bluster replaced by forced cooperation. We'll need to move the sick child, the officer adds. Noticing Jamie for the first time, construction dust isn't good for lung complaints. Your mother stiffens. He can't be moved, she says firmly. Doctor's orders. He's just beginning to recover. A standoff threatens. The impersonal requirements of building repairs versus the immediate medical needs of a sick child. The officer frowns, consulting his ledger as though it might contain a solution to this unexpected complication. Before he can respond, a new voice enters the conversation from the doorway. Perhaps I can be of assistance. The doctor has returned as promised. His coat still dusted with snow, his bag in hand. His presence immediately changes the dynamic in the small room, his professional status giving him authority that even the parish officer respects. Medical necessity must take precedence, he says. Moving to Jamie's bedside and checking his pulse with practiced efficiency. The boy has pneumonia severe enough to require constant monitoring. Moving him would pose significant risk. The parish officer hesitates, caught between competing official requirements. The ceiling repairs can surely be scheduled around one room. The doctor suggests smoothly or perhaps completed with extra precautions to minimize dust. I'd be happy to provide a formal medical exemption if necessary. This offer to use his professional authority to create an official exception resolves the immediate tension. The parish officer makes a note in his ledger. The landlord looks relieved at finding a solution that doesn't require confrontation with either the parish or the doctor. and your mother's rigid posture relaxes slightly. We'll move to this room last. The parish officer decides and require the workers to take special precautions. Doctor, if you could provide that exemption document by tomorrow. The doctor nods agreement and the matter is settled. The officer and landlord move on to the next dwelling, leaving your family alone with the doctor. Perfect timing, your father says with genuine gratitude. Wasn't sure how to handle that without causing trouble. The doctor shrugs off the thanks, already focused on examining Jamie. How has he been since this morning? Better, your mother reports. Taking broth, fever down, breathing easier. Even spoke a little. The doctor nods, satisfaction evident as he listens to Jamie's chest. Definite improvement, he confirms. The fluid is decreasing. His body is fighting effectively now. Relief washes through the room, almost tangible in its intensity. The cautious hope of the morning solidifies into stronger confidence, not certainty. Nothing about winter illness is ever certain, but genuine belief that recovery rather than loss is the likely outcome. So what happens now? Emma asks. Practical as always, with the repairs, I mean. The question brings focus back to the unexpected development. Actual maintenance on a building typically left to slow decay. Actual enforcement of housing standards normally ignored in the slums. They'll fix the ceilings and water pipes. Your father explains, moving from room to room. We'll be last because of Jamie, but eventually they'll need access here too. The doctor, finishing his examination of Jamie, rejoins the conversation. I'll ensure they take appropriate precautions when they reach this room, and by then he should be stronger anyway. He packs his instruments back into his bag. I've brought more medicine. A tonic to rebuild strength once the acute infection passes, and something for pain if he needs it. These continuing small kindnesses, special medicines, professional intervention with authorities, attention beyond the minimum required, remain surprising. Not all parish doctors are cold or negligent, certainly, but few invest themselves so personally in slum families who cannot offer payment or professional advancement in return. After the doctor leaves, your family settles into evening routines transformed by both crisis and unexpected hope. The bread from the baker and meat purchased with the day's earnings make a substantial meal by your standards. The fire burns well. Fueled by coal bought with the same wages, Jamie sits propped up for the first time in days. Taking small bites of food, his eyes clearer, his breathing easier. Outside, the sounds of repair work continue despite the gathering darkness. An unprecedented urgency in addressing problems typically left to worsen until they became truly dangerous. The disruption of normal patterns. Workers in the building after dark. Barrels of water being positioned in hallways. Neighbors gathering to discuss the sudden attention to long-ignored issues. Creates an atmosphere almost of celebration. Never thought I'd see Phillips forced to fix anything properly. Your father comments, satisfaction evident in his voice. Must have cost someone important money for them to send a parish officer out in this weather. Mrs. Higgins thinks it was the Thompson tragedy, you remind him. Put pressure on the parish to enforce regulations. Your father nods slowly, poor family. Terrible way to go. He stares into the fire for a moment, perhaps thinking how close your own family came to a similar fate with Jamie's illness. At least some good might come of it. Better pipes, safer ceilings. This is the cruel calculus of slum improvement. Progress often comes only after tragedy. Safety standards enforced only after preventable deaths. Not justice, not real reform, but small steps forward purchased with others' suffering. As evening deepens into night, a knock at the door reveals Mrs. Higgins again. This time accompanied by her oldest son, Tom, carrying a small crate. Water barrels been set up on the landing, she announces. Tom and I filled these for you. Save you the trip? The crate contains several jugs of clean water. Enough for drinking and basic washing until morning. You shouldn't have, your mother begins. The ritual protest. Nonsense. Mrs. Higgins cuts her off with the same brisk efficiency as before. Your boy needs rest, not you trudging up and down for water. She peers across the room to where Jamie sits propped against pillows, looking better already. That doctor must know his business after all, Tom. A lanky boy of about 16 shifts awkwardly beside his mother. Got something else too, he says, reaching into his pocket. He produces a small wooden figure, roughly carved but recognizable as a boat. Made it while I was stuck inside during the storm. Thought Jamie might like it when he's feeling up to playing again. This gift, handmade, requiring precious time and effort, represents a different kind of generosity than shared food or water. Not necessity, but kindness. Attention to the human need for more than mere survival. Jamie's face lights up at the sight, his first genuine smile in days. For me? He asks, voice still weak but animated with interest. It's brilliant, the small moment of joy, a sick child delighting in a simple toy, neighbors extending kindness beyond practical necessity, humanity flourishing even in the harshest conditions. Feels like victory against winter's grinding assault. Not just surviving, but living, finding moments of connection and pleasure despite everything. After Mrs. Higgins and Tom leave, promising to check in again tomorrow, your family prepares for night. The improved fire, better food, and Jamie's visible recovery create an atmosphere almost of normalcy, as though the crisis has passed, the worst averted. Should we use some coal to heat water for washing? Emma suggests. A luxury rarely considered in winter when fuel is precious and cold water torture. Your mother hesitates, practical concerns warring with the desire to celebrate Jamie's improvement with some small comfort. Your father makes the decision, reaching for the bucket. We've earned it, he says simply. One small pot, just enough for faces and hands. This modest indulgence, warm water instead of icy, the chance to truly clean away the grime of days spent in snow and coal dust and sick-room worry, feels extravagant, almost decadent. You each take turns at the small basin, sighing with pleasure, at the simple comfort of warmth against skin, the strange luxury of cleanliness in winter. Jamie watches these preparations from his bed. Still too weak to join, but visibly stronger than the day before. When I'm better, he announces. I'm going to wash my whole self, head to feet. The declaration, so ordinary in summer, so outrageous in winter, makes everyone laugh. The sound, strange and welcome in a room that has held only tense whispers and labored breathing for days. Ambitious, your father teases. But let's start with standing up on your own first. Young man, as night fully claims the city, the noise of repair work finally ceases. The building settles into unusual quiet, not the typical sounds of too many lives pressed too closely together, but a hush that seems almost peaceful. Perhaps everyone is simply exhausted by the storm, the crisis, the unexpected activity, or perhaps there's a collective holding of breath, a community-wide pause to acknowledge averted disaster, both Jamie's recovery and the forced repairs representing rare victories against winter's assault. Sleep comes more easily tonight, your body surrendering to the exhaustion of shoveling snow for hours, your mind relaxing its vigilance now that Jamie's breathing flows more normally, his fever reduced to manageable levels. Even your dreams are gentler, not the usual winter nightmares of freezing or hunger, but vague, pleasant images of spring, of warmth, of easier days ahead. You wake briefly in the night, confused at first by what disturbed your sleep. Then you identify it. Silence, Jamie's breathing, which has provided constant background noise for days. Rasping, rattling, gasping, has quieted to near normal rhythm. In the dim firelight, you can see his chest rising and falling easily. His face relaxed in genuine sleep rather than fever-induced unconsciousness. This simple observation, a child breathing normally, fills you with profound gratitude. Not religious exactly, but something close. Appreciation for whatever combination of the doctor's skill. Your family's care and simple human resilience has brought Jamie back from the edge of winter's abyss. Outside, snow starts to fall again, softly this time, more like a decoration than a threat, covering the dirty piles left from the storm with a fresh layer of white. The temperature has warmed a bit, the sharpness in the air fading, and the wind is gentler against the windows. It's not spring yet, not even a real thaw, but a kinder side of winter, showing that even in the toughest season, there are moments of beauty and grace. You drift back to sleep thinking of the carved wooden boat, the warm water for washing, the repairs that will make the building safer, the doctor who stayed through the night, and the neighbors who shared what little they had. None of these things erase the harshness of winter, poverty, the constant cold, the inadequate food, or the looming threat of illness or injury that could turn fragile survival into disaster. But together, they form a kind of hope. Not the naive optimism of those who have never truly suffered, but the hard-won, clear-eyed hope of those who have faced winter's worst and found themselves still standing, still breathing, still human despite everything. The morning light filters gently through the clouds as the storm passes by, revealing a changed London. It's blanketed in snow, still alive and moving forward, showing signs of wear but on the mend, just like Jamie. The sounds of repair work start early, with men calling to each other as they move equipment. You can hear the rasp of saws and the bang of hammers. Normally this noise might be annoying, but today it feels like music, a sign of progress, of issues being tackled instead of overlooked. of a system functioning as it should, if only for a moment. Jamie stirs awake, eyes fluttering open to the strange sounds around. "What's going on?" he asks, his voice firmer than before, his eyes wide awake. Emma tells him they're fixing the building, helping him sit up against the pillows. Water pipes, ceilings, everything is being repaired because of the storm. Are ceilings too? He looks up at the water stain that's been slowly spreading for months, overlooked by the landlord even after many complaints. In the end, "You agree, but they are keeping our room for last, allowing you to rest and regain your strength first." He thinks about this information with the same seriousness that kids often show towards grown-up issues. "Good," he decides finally. "I want to watch them fix it, learn how it works." This expression of curiosity, this interest in the world beyond illness and survival, feels like the clearest sign yet of his recovery. It's not just about breathing easier or the fever reducing. It's about the return of the essential Jamie, curious, engaged, thinking beyond the immediate moment. Your father, getting ready to head out for another day of clearing snow, stops to tousle Jamie's hair softly. He promises to bring you something to draw with so you can plan how the ceiling should look. This little treat, pencil and paper usually too costly for anything beyond basic communication, is yet another celebration of recovery, another recognition that surviving takes more than just the bare essentials. Beauty and creativity are like play, essential human needs that become even more valuable during the scarcity of winter. As your father walks away, Jamie shouts after him, "Don't forget to bring back stories about what you see today." The request, so ordinary and innocent, so distant from the frantic pleas of earlier days, brings unexpected tears to your mother's eyes. She spins around swiftly, focusing on the fire. But you notice the wave of relief and deep gratitude that shines through her. Winter in Victorian London is harsh. The snow will turn to slush, then freeze back into slippery ice. Coal will once more be hard to find. As supplies decrease, food prices will go up. In crowded tenements, illness will affect more people. The repairs needed after the storm and the help from the parish will take care of urgent issues, but they won't solve the deeper problems of poverty, inequality, and neglect that turn every winter into a struggle for survival instead of just a shift in the seasons. In this moment, in this room, with Jamie breathing easily and repair work showing signs of improvement, winter's grip has been delayed. Not completely gone, never really gone until spring, but for now, held back by human strength, community care, medical expertise, and the little acts of kindness that help us get through. Outside, kids are playing in the snow, their joyful laughter floating up from the street below, even though it's chilly. The sound pulls Jamie in, like a magnet. He tries to sit up a bit more, wanting to look out the window from his bed. When will I be able to go outside again? He watches the children, a look of yearning in his eyes. Your mother answers with certainty, not for a while yet. You're on the mend. He takes this in with just a slight sigh of disappointment. Can you share more about it? He looks at you and asks, how does it look outside with all the snow and everything? You walk to the window and gaze at the changed street. Children are playing, workers are clearing paths, and neighbors are sharing news and helping each other. Life goes on, even with winter trying to slow it down. It's lovely in its own way. You start, searching for the right words to explain the unusual. Tough charm of a London winter to a child who is too unwell to experience it himself. Everything is blanketed in white, icicles dangling like glass ornaments, and the sun makes the snow glisten when it peeks through the clouds. The following week unfolds with a steady sense of progress for both Jamie and your building. Every day brings little wins, Jamie sitting up for longer, eating more, and the color coming back to his once pale face. The repair work moves along, floor by floor, with the sounds of hammers and saws creating a familiar backdrop, almost soothing in what they signify, real upkeep instead of harmful neglect. Your father keeps looking for work, shoveling snow, and then goes back to assisting with the butcher's delivery cart when the main roads are clear again. The pay varies, but it's enough to keep the fire going and food available. Your mother mends clothes for neighbors who can spare a few pennies, working by the better firelight while keeping an eye on Jamie. Emma goes back to her old job at the match factory, but she arranges to work fewer hours so she can be home more while Jamie heals. The parish doctor comes by every other day, seeing progress each time and slowly cutting back on medicines as they are no longer needed. The doctor observes Jamie, who is young, laughing at something Emma has said during one of their visits. This sound was hard to picture during the darkest days of his illness. Kids bounce back wonderfully when they receive the right care. The quiet praise from your family for showing such care, even in tough times, lingers in the space between him and your mother. The professional distance between Jamie and the doctor has lessened during Jamie's illness, forming a bond that feels different from a friendship, yet deeper than the usual connection between a doctor and a patient from the slums. Your mother says you were lucky to come that night. The words hold many meanings: thankfulness, an understanding of how things could have turned out differently, and an awareness that many children in similar situations don't get this kind of attention. The doctor gives a small shake of his head. Your son's determination to fetch help despite the storm, not luck. He gives you a nod, a rare moment of direct recognition. Most people would have chosen to wait until the morning. At that point, he leaves the sentence hanging, no need to continue. By morning, Jamie could be too far gone. These small interactions, a nod to shared humanity across wide social gaps, show little breaks in the strict class system of Victorian London. While they may not bring about real equality or justice, they serve as a reminder to all that there are real people on both sides of the divide, beyond mere numbers or labels. When the repair crew arrives at your room, Jamie is sitting in a chair, cozy in blankets, watching with wide eyes as the workers fix the broken part of the ceiling. Mr. Phillips, the landlord, oversees the repairs with noticeable hesitation, as each one is a cost he would rather not incur. The crew foreman keeps reminding him about the needed maintenance, making sure everyone can hear. Parrish has everything written down now, so it can't be delayed any longer. This public shaming makes a landlord face responsibilities they often overlook, giving tenants a little bit of justice as they deal with unsafe living conditions while struggling to pay their rent. It's not a revolution or real reform, just a temporary shift in power that seems important even with its flaws.